All eyes are on the top prize in Speedway. To be Grand Prix World Champion is the ultimate achievement. Britain's Mark Laram raised the stakes in Sweden and became the most successful wildcard entry ever.
Tremendous speedway here. What a ride by Mark Laram. I said perhaps we hadn't seen it all. I think we have now.
It's a packed house in Poland. Championship leader Thomas Gollub is on home soil, but it's Mark Laram that's on the boil. 40,000 fans and 28-degree heat is the order of the day in Wroclaw. Poland has turned out in force to cheer for their most successful sportsman. The pressure is on Thomas Gollub. A warm welcome to you. This is round 3 of the 6-round Grand Prix series, and this could be the event that we hear confirmation of massive changes in the sport at Grand Prix level. But in the short term, Thomas Gollub is basking in huge support today at the Wroclaw Stadium. And here to enjoy the action with me are two former world champions, Sam Emelianenko and Gary Havelock. Thanks for joining us, gents.
Thanks.
This is the track, of course, Gary, that you won the World Championship back in, what, 92?
Yeah, Keith, it was 92, yeah. It's a big, fast track and should suit the British lads, I think, out there today. If there's a bit of grip in the surface, especially Mark, the way he's going at the moment. And Brits over the past have tended to get good results in Poland.
And you had to wait another year to get your world title.
I did, yeah. I was I was a victim of the rain. They had a big rainstorm in Heat 3, and I was in Heat 3, and that cost me my championship chance then.
Well, that was then. This is now. And before we chat more seriously today, let's first look back at round 2, and it was sensational Sweden.
Tony Rickardsson wants the points to mount a challenge. He's on the inside. Jimmy Nielsen goes from gate 2. Mark Laram will be cheering for him, goes from gate 3. And on the outside is Lee Adams. The tape's about to go up. The starting marshal goes away. Away they go on the inside, but from gate 2, Jimmy Nielsen picks it up. Mark Laram well placed now in gate 3 to pick it up, but losing ground there as through on the inside goes Rickardsson and shuts the gate on Laram. But Jimmy Nielsen is doing another of his armchair rides out front. He's going to be challenged by Rickardsson, who would take him wide here, but Nielsen cuts back well. Good position, but look at Mark Laram as he goes up the outside to squeeze out Rickardsson in second place, and now mount a challenge on Jimmy Nielsen. Could this be glory for the man from Pole as he goes down this straight? Coming across well is Jimmy Nielsen to shut him out. Mark Laram is not done. This is tremendous stuff.
My heart says Mark Laram, but of course looking at this, Jimmy Nielsen's under control at the moment. Matt trying so hard. I mean, he's almost there.
Look at Laram, he's got the inside, he takes him through. Nielsen comes back, it's Laram and Nielsen. Nielsen and Laram, tremendous speedway here. What a ride by Mark Laram. He's going to get glory. Can he hold Nielsen off? Mark Laram, a tremendous ride. The Brit has won it. Mark Laram takes the Swedish Grand Prix. The wild card has triumphed. The Brit has triumphed. Jimmy Nielsen is squeezed out. The Swedes are dumbfounded. And what a ride by our very own Mark Laram.
And he was the first wild card to win a Grand Prix. And here's what those 25 points have done for him in the championship. Gollub still leads by 4 points from Jimmy Nielsen in second place. Greg Hancock is third. Tony Rickardsson, the current world champion, is only fourth and on 25 points. Likewise is Jason Crump. Tony Casper there is in sixth place. He's got 25 points also. Mark Laram, seventh with 25 points. On 22 is Peter Carlson. That's the top 8. Dano is 9th, Jorgensen is in 10th place, Adams is 11th, Joe Screen and Chris Louis are 12th and 13th. Louis not having the greatest of seasons so far at Grand Prix level. Michael Carlson is 14th, 15th is Karga, and then Andy Smith, as ever in the Grand Prix, there in 16th place. Well, that's how the championship looked, but we've got to say, and I mean, I think I've sat here many times before, that he's a real racer, isn't he? Thanks for coming back and seeing us here in the studio, Gary. So, to you, first of all, what about that ride from him?
Yeah, it was unbelievable, you know. It's just riding at pull with Mark this year. He's getting himself down to pull has really sort of brought his career back to where it was before. You know, he's absolutely flying again, and you know, we see that week in, week out when he rides for us. He goes to away tracks, home tracks. He's always out there like 3 inches from the fence with a handful of gas.
Sam, you said it looked like they staged it. It was that good.
Well, adding to the Mark Laram show, I mean, the guy's doing great. Last year I rode with him at Wolverhampton, and he was having a downer, more equipment problems, I think, and lack of confidence. And this year he's got the confidence and the equipment, and when you got both those and being a born racer like Mark, I mean, that's the perfect combination.
Well, we've got all the Brits out there at the moment, except, of course, for Gary at the moment. Let's take a look at the lineup. These are the 8 that go through to Heat 11. Tony Rickardson, Jimmy Nielsen, Thomas Gollub, Hans Nielsen, Chris Louis, Greg Hancock, Ryan Sullivan and Jason Crump. We'll see them from 11th heat onwards. But the qualifiers will be Karga, Carlson, Casper, Giraud, Lee Adams, Brian Anderson, Henke Gustafsson and the ever-present Andy Smith there, the first of the Brits that have got to qualify. Dano, Carlson, Joe Screen, John Jorgensen, Robert Dados, Billy Hamill, Mark Laram. He will remain a wild card. We're going to talk about this in a while. He'll remain a wild card right the way through the series, providing he's in with a chance of taking this World Championship. And Dibrucki is there in 24th place. He too is the Polish wild card. I think probably it's time, as we can see over my shoulder, live shots coming in from Poland at this point in time. You can see the riders line up at the minute. I was about to talk about that wild card situation regarding Mark Laram. He will remain a wild card throughout the season, providing he's still doing the business, I think is the phrase I've got to use. Ollie Olsen has said that he will remain in the series, even though technically he shouldn't.
Well, they said if he stays in the top 4, which is pretty a tall order. I mean, even for Mark, as good as a rider, he's starting from the beginning in the qualifying stages, and he's got to go all the way through. So if he didn't accomplish that, then he's a well-deserved wild card rider.
Well, it's going to be sudden death then from Mark Laram. We'll take a break. Round 3 starts in Poland in a couple of minutes. And we've some real interesting news coming from the stadium.
Elite Speedway on Sky Sports. The world's best riders, surviving on adrenaline and facing fear.
Oh, look at that!
Man, machine, moulded as one, triumphing over terror with a need for speed.
This is fantastic Speedway.
The Elite Speedway continues. Oxford v Bellevue, Wednesday, 7:30, live and exclusive, Sky Sports 2.
Conventional oil cannot protect properly until it reaches a critical temperature. Remember, this is when 75% of engine wear occurs. How long can it take to reach this temperature? 10 minutes. Your oil is just getting started, but your journey could have finished. Even when cold, Magnatec has unique polarized molecules which cling like a magnet, protecting from the moment you turn the key. Fit GTX Magnatec from Castrol.
Go on. Granny, is this your job?
No. Your granddad and I don't work anymore.
Who takes care of you then?
Well, we've got our pension with Standard Life.
Are they any good?
Standard Life takes good care of us. And they've been investing really well for years.
So they're old then?
But they keep going from strength to strength.
Granny, is Granddad going from strength to strength?
I don't think so, dear.
Standard Life, for pensions, savings and investments.
What pushed Carl Fogarty to his 3rd World Superbike Championship last year?
For an unprecedented 4th title, he'll need an even bigger push at Brands this year. Book now and give Foggy your support.
I'm going to eat a whole victory sponge all to myself.
Oh, very clever.
Exceedingly.
One extra Mini Classic forever with my compliments.
As basic engines take longer to warm up, they suffer more damage. So now, there's GTX Magnatec for basic engines.
You guys kill me. You take a delicious Oriental infusion and dump cow juice into it. You get more rain in a year than Borneo. Yet the minute it stops, they hit you with a hosepipe ban. You sunbathe in your clothes. You invent a sport that no one understands, and the whole world still whips you at it. And your most popular dish is curry. Nowadays, even your civil wars are civilized. Small country, isn't it?
Sorry?
When it comes to sex, we all know what you prefer, but you must be doing something right, because 17 million of us, Johnny Foreigners, would rather fly your airline than any of our own. I guess you should be proud of that. But that wouldn't be very British, would it? Sorry.
Wroclaw in Poland is the venue for tonight's Speedway, and it is live and exclusive right here on Sky Sports. Now, I said in our opener that we had some good news for Speedway coming up in the show. Well, it's come sooner than I thought. From trackside is Philip Rising.
Okay. The FIM and BSI, a British-based sports promotion company, have today signed a $25 million 5-year deal which guarantees the future of Grand Prix Speedway. And one of the men behind the new contract, and a very delighted one on that, is Ollie Olsen, the Grand Prix race director. This must be a dream come true for you, Ollie.
Yes, you're not kidding there. It's, I'm very, very pleased with that, Phil, and we've been working on this for a long time. And of course, I now feel the enthusiasm growing, and we have secured the Grand Prix for another 5 years with a lot of backing and support from a proper promotion company that can do a lot for Speedway. So I look very much forward to this.
John Poswell is Executive Director of BSI. John, one of the first questions obviously is why do you become involved with Speedway?
I think people were saying that to Sky at the beginning of the year, weren't they, Philip? Well, I think for the same reasons that Sky were interested in broadcasting the League Series in England, we've been interested in looking at promoting the Grand Prix Series. It's an arena-based sport. It's lots of short races, 4 laps, 4 riders in each race, and it's a very exciting television sport. It's very sympathetic to sponsorship and to commercial breaks, and it really is sort of made for TV. There's 35,000 people out here, which we're going to see tonight, going absolutely crazy, cheering for Thomas Gollub. And if we can get the same enthusiasm in the series around the world as we've got here in Poland, we'll be on to a real winner with this series, and that's what we intend to do, Philip.
At the moment, John, the series just takes place in Europe. From what you said, you obviously want to go outside Europe. How quickly do you envisage that happening?
I think next year it would be a bit ambitious to take it outside Europe, but there should be no reason why in 2001 we can't start looking at places like Australia and the United States. We've got some tremendous riders from both those markets. There's a strong grassroots interest in the sport, and we feel that Grand Prix will be a great success in those 2 markets, which have a great heritage of motorsport events.
And we're going to see tonight, Ollie, aren't we, just how good Grand Prix racing can be?
We're going to see the best, and as John was saying, 35,000 capacity crowd here, tremendous racing, and the meeting will be very tough tonight, and the Grand Prix as a whole is still wide open. You watch it tonight.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Ollie Olsen knew it. It was only a matter of time before big money came into Speedway. We're looking down on the grid now. Bit of drama going on already just out of pit lane. Well, our commentators as ever, our 3rd world title holder in the Sky Sports team is, of course, Peter Collins, and alongside him is Tony Millard.
Good evening, a packed crowd. It's tropical weather here. For some, well, the west side of Poland may not exactly be the Mediterranean, but 90-degree heat. 35,000 plus people here, and they're all sunbathing. I can tell you the clock counting down bottom right-hand corner of your screen is our referee, Tony Steele, putting the riders on 2 minutes to get on the way to tapes. Controversy, of course, has hit with that in recent Grand Prix, and we are still waiting for John Jorgensen, the Dane in the red helmet colour, to come up to the inside. PC, will he make it?
Well, he swapped his bike. He mustn't have been happy with his first bike, but he's up there now to the tapes. We've seen riders before excluded because they've not been ready to go, but I think he's just about made it, Tony.
There we are, John Jorgensen from Denmark on the inside. Roland Danos from Poland goes from gate 2. Ryan Sullivan, the Australian, from gate 3. Rafael Tabrucki from Poland on the outside. The Poles could go mad here. But let's see as the starting marshal moves away. Nearly touching the tapes, away we go on the inside in red there. Moving up on the yellow helmet colours, Raphael de Brookie on the inside, picks it up out front, and it's great news for the Poles here at the moment. Roland Danos in second place, it's Poland 1 and 2, but there in the yellow helmet colour is de Brookie, and certainly in second place now in red there is John Jorgensen, and the referee has stopped that on 2 laps, and there's problems there.
Yeah, I know what happened there. Ryan Sullivan, I think, touched the tape on the starting line, so he has been excluded. The riders probably didn't see the red stop lights out there and carried on for that full lap, but I think Ryan Sullivan is excluded.
Well, Ryan Sullivan is out for touching the tapes. That is the verdict here in the stadium, and that will cause controversy, but I think we saw it just at the start. Our referee Tony Steele spotted it. It took a while to convey it. There is the Australian. It does mean in this format that will give him effectively 4th place in this heat, which means he does get a chance by repechage. It's rather like musical chairs here, because if you finish 3rd or 4th in a heat, then you have a second opportunity to get through. If you finish 3rd or 4th 2 heats in a row, then you are eliminated. And there Ryan Sullivan clearly is going to the phone to speak to our referee Tony Steele. Well, Peter, I'm sure he'll be making some excuses, but I expect the referee will stand firm.
I think it was pretty obvious. I'm sure he rolled onto that tape there. We saw that, and, you know, that is the rule. If you touch the tape, you are excluded. So he'd be very, very lucky if the referee does allow him back in this.
Well, he's talking to the referee. Also, we saw the race director. That's Neil Street, the Australian team manager, Jason Crump's father-in-law, putting him on the phone, helping with that to talk to Tony Steele. And already we have controversy here. And Ron Sullivan would be desperately disappointed, but I think it was pretty clear on the start what happened there, and I think Mr. Steele will be adamant, and PC, they've really got to be pretty firm here, because they've excluded riders for different reasons, haven't they, in the past?
Well, they've excluded riders for not being up to the tape, probably 14, 15 seconds longer than they should have been, and they've been excluded, and I can't see the referee bending the rules right now, and Ryan will be very, very disappointed, because you've got to do well in your first race, and to be sat watching this from the sidelines, he's devastated.
Well, Ron Sullivan is out. We will restart with just 3 riders. And we can see it, I think, again there. We did see, that's it from the start, PC. And certainly, Ron, we just missed it there, but Ron Sullivan touched the tapes there. They're seeing the white helmet colours. And they were allowed to go on a little while before the referee pulled them back. But now the restart with just 3. John Jorgensen on the inside. Roland Dados goes from gate 2. The white helmet colour of Ron Sullivan is excluded. And Raphael de Brookie goes on the outside. So we're just waiting for the start then of Heat 1, the restart of Heat 1 without Ryan Sullivan. It means that Sullivan does count as the 4th place rider in the first heat, which means he'll go in Heat 6 for a second chance. But this is Heat 1 with now just 3 riders. Jorgensen on the inside, and very close next to him is Roland Danos. On the outside, taking a wide berth, Raphael de Brookie. Big crowd in expectation with 2 poles in this race, and where they go on the inside now, picking it up well in the red helmet colours is John Jorgensen. On the outside in yellow, de Brookie. De Brookie's going round, picking up the grip. Left bear in his weight is Danos, but the 2 battling out front. This is a battle, Peter, indeed.
Yeah, I've seen Raphael de Brookie ride a few times, and he is very, very good. There is no doubt he's an ex-Polish under-21 champion. He's a great league rider, and certainly in this race, the way he made that start from the outside position, he is flying at the moment.
There's Roland Danos in the blue helmet colours, but certainly de Brookie is the man out front in the yellow there, and now it's Poland 1 and 2, and they're certainly taking advantage of the knowledge of this track. A big 400-metre circuit here in the Olympic Stadium. Out front, it's Raphael de Brookie looking good, stretching his lead in front of his fellow countryman Roland Danos, but it looks as if it's going to be Poland 1 and 2. The fans will certainly be up in the air when the checkered flag comes, because they know that it's the greatest possible start for their 2 men. The number 24 there, that's the wildcard rider Raphael de Brookie in front. In second place, Roland Danos. The Polish flags are already flying. The Polish fans are up in the air. The cheers from Poland as the wheelie takes the checkered flag. And I can tell you quite categorically, Raphael de Brookie won that with some space to spare ahead of his teammate, fellow countryman Roland Danos. And back at the rear, John Jorgensen in red will have to fight and battle again, but the Polish flag's flying already here with a victory for Raphael de Brookie ahead of Roland Danos. And in 3rd place, John Jorgensen, the exclusion of Ron Sullivan. But earlier, well, we saw some action because our man Philip Rising spoke with both Mark Laram and Chris Louis.
Still luck, but it's 90 degrees. 35,000 people at track, you know well. It's just a time to kickstart your season.
Yeah, it hasn't been the best of starts, and you're right, I need to turn it around at this one, really, if I'm going to, so I've got to get stuck into it. Starting at the beginning of the meeting, which is something that I normally favour. A little bit unfortunate in Sweden, really, with my back injury. It was going good till it rained, so track looks in excellent order, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Anything different to your setup today that you've had so far?
We might have a bit more horsepower, we'll have to wait and see.
And Mark, what run you're on? British champion, overseas champion, the first rider, wildcard rider to win a Grand Prix. You going to keep going tonight?
I'm certainly going to try, you know, I'm just a wild card, so, you know, anything I do is a bonus for me, you know, whereas if I was in it, you know, there'd be a bit more pressure on me, but if things are going all right at the moment, I'm just going to go out and enjoy myself and, you know, and see if I can do well again.
I have confirmed that a wildcard rider could become world champion. You're going to be the wildcard rider in the next round in Britain. Is that playing on your mind at all?
No, like I say, I'm going to take each round as it comes and just go out and, you know, ride my hardest I can and hopefully come up with some good results and just show that I can get amongst them, really.
All right, boys, thanks a lot and good luck later on.
Well, we hope the Brits can get among them, and there is a Brit in this heat number 2 because in the blue helmet colour is Joe Screen. On the inside is Greg Hancock in red. On the outside is Mark Laram in yellow. Billy Hamill goes in white. So British interest all round here. Greg Hancock, Peter Collins alongside me, rides his league speedway in Poland on this track. Some advantage for him, I would suggest.
Well, I think so, but they actually rode last week and Greg had a bad meeting, actually. I think he only scored 7 points. Tony Rickard's Club Gdansk were here, and Tony got a 15-point maximum, so that may be a pointer on what's going to happen tonight, Tony.
Well, a lot of interest, a lot of British League interest in this one. Greg Hancock and Billy Hamill, of course, they are the Americans, both of whom ride for Coventry. Joe Screen, Bahal, teammate of Sema Malenko in our studio tonight, and Mark Laram, the sensational wild card, and argued by many at the moment a teammate of Gary Havelock down at Poole, arguably the best rider in World Speedway perhaps at the moment. Well, if Mark can make the start, of course he'd go like lightning, but he's not done even if he doesn't make it from the start, PC. One of the best riders on the back you've known, surely.
Well, he is, and of course Joe Screen's in there. Joe's in the same boat. Not a good starter, Joe, but also he can come from behind as well, and this first corner is going to be very crucial for both of them.
Greg Hancock on the inside. Joe Screen goes from gate 2. Billy Hamill gate 3, and on the outside, Mark Laram. That's the lineup in front of this near-capacity crowd here in the Olympic Stadium, Wroclaw. Heat, nearly 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It's mighty warm. Let's hope it's hot on the track. Nearly getting a chance there. And the white helmet colours of Billy Hamill have broke the tape, but Hamill picks it up. In front of the inside goes Greg Hancock. Mark Laram still at the back, coming through Joe Screen in blue. Laram trying to battle through and does. Look at that ride. Typical, so typical of Mark Laram, but coming back is Joe Screen. Laram pushed to the back again. Hancock out front and clear, but what a battle in second, third and fourth places.
Tony, there was no gap there when Mark Laram came through. He really had to push his way through, but now he's struggling at the back. Joe Screen's got that second place at the moment.
Well, the battle is joined all over the place, but out front, Greg Hancock knows the racing line here at this big 400-metre track. He's out front ahead of Joe Screen in second place. If it stays like this, these two will go through to the next stage quite comfortably, and the rear two, Billy Hamill and Mark Laram, will have to go again. But for Greg Hancock, no problems at the moment. He has had his problems, of course, with time exclusions and other things going wrong for him in the Grand Prix series, but so far, here he is on this last lap. The local fans will appreciate this effort. Now for Greg Hancock, he's going wide, he's got time on his side, he has a great chance there, and Greg Hancock takes that ahead of Joe Screen in blue. The pair of them march on. A good result, that indeed. Billy Hamill back in third place, Mark Laram fourth. Both have to go again. The fans here in Wroclaw know that in their league speedway, they support the winner, Greg Hancock. Joe Screen in second place. Both of them march on. Billy Hamill and Mark Laram will have to go again. And the heat really was quite a battle because it was ding-dong. Here we see it for the tapes with PC.
This is the start. That's Mark Laram on the outside. He doesn't make a good start. We said that he struggles on the start, and of course he didn't make it. Now there in the white helmets, Billy Hamill also coming across, but in the red on the inside, Greg Hancock. Greg's made a perfect start from the inside, and we do know that the inside works real well early on in the meeting. All the dirt's well down, and you can see Greg's pushed Billy Hamill out wide, and Joe Screen's making a good run right around that inside. But we can see now, there is Mark Laram in a sandwich. He gets totally squashed there, just about sneaks through, but at the end of the day, we can see that he gets a push and a nudge. Billy Hamill seemed to come off worse from that encounter, but again, Billy he caught Mark Laram and got past him, and poor Mark ended up there at the back.
Well, we know Mark Laram's capabilities. We know he can try again. And we know now that he will have to battle again. He'll be out in heat 5, where he'll be up against John Jorgensen so far. But now as we move on to heat number 3, we've caught a glimpse there of Jason Crump, but this is Michael Carlsen from Sweden in the blue helmet colours with the number 18, of course. Mario Jeraut from the Czech Republic. He goes in the white helmet colours, and that's Brian Anderson, the Coventry rider, who's had a few problems with injuries this year, Brian Anderson, the 28-year-old, and I just wonder whether he's still fully fit, Peter.
He's still struggling from broken collarbone. He's had both collarbones broken in the last couple of years, and one hasn't knitted together. He's having a lot of problems with it, a lot of pain, and he's just riding and compensating in his riding, but I'm sure it's a struggle for him.
Another injured rider, of course, Jason Crump. We missed him in league action on Sky a few weeks back. He had a collarbone injury, I think it was, and he will be far from fully fit, surely.
Yeah, again, Jason's got a collarbone broken, and, you know, this is a very, very common injury with Speedway riders. It's nearly always your shoulder that you land on, and the poor collarbones are always giving up and breaking. And, of course, Jason Crump's had that problem now for about 2 weeks, and that collarbone will still be very painful.
Clock counting down from our referee, Tony Steele. That's Mario Jeraut, who's up at tapes in the white helmet colours in this heat number 3. Getting set, he too going back, a lot of problems with condensation, of course, under the visors below their helmets. Jason Crump in the red helmet colours there, up at starting tapes and digging for victory, they could say, on the inside in front of this packed crowd. That's Michael Carlsen, the Swede, who'll be going from gate number 2 into that vacant space there when he comes up to tapes past the Glamour Girls, guarding those starting positions. Gate 3 there we see Mario Jeraut. Outside, away to his right, now left of screen there, Brian Anderson just disappearing behind the starting marshal. That is Brian Anderson, the Coventry captain. This is heat number 3. Remember the early stages, the top 8 from the last Grand Prix seeded through, but now these lads have to battle to meet them beyond heat number 10. Jason Crump on the inside. Michael Carlsen goes from gate 2. In gate 3 is Mario Jeraut from the Czech Republic, and Brian Anderson from Denmark goes from the outside. 4 different nations in this heat number 3. Starting marshal moves away. Jason Crump picks it up. Coming from wide is Brian Anderson. Crump in red on the inside. Anderson in yellow on the outside. Coming through in 3rd place. The battle is joined. But look at the effort from Jason Crump, stretching that lead. Michael Carlsen back in 3rd place. At the rear is Mario Jeraut. And not much wrong with Jason Crump riding like this, Peter.
Well, the 2 boys with the collarbone injuries there in 1st and 2nd, of course. What a great start from Jason. Jason came off that 1 position. He made the start from gate 1. Of course, tucked in behind him is Brian Anderson. And these are the 2 positions that help you go through to the earlier qualification rounds.
Crump looking as if he's got a comfortable racing line, going slightly wider, picking it up, looking wheel safe, looking wheel sure, getting them in line and riding down that back straight ahead of Brian Anderson. Almost 2 races developing here with Michael Carlsen back in 3rd place, and Mario Jeraut hardly at the races. But Jason Crump, this man out front, certainly is, and Brian Anderson with him is set to qualify for the next stage as the front 2 mark on, and the others have to battle again. But certainly Jason Crump, we know that he's one of the best riders in the world at his peak. He's certainly looking like it here at the moment, and Jason Crump there with some comfort takes the checkered flag. Jason Crump in the red helmet colours there with some ease, and Brian Anderson had a problem just before the finish there, and really I'm not quite sure what happened there. There's no question to Jason Crump, but we can see Anderson again here taking a tumble, and he's tumbled out. He will have to race again, but Peter, I would think another damaged collarbone could be the result of that one.
He's fallen right on that bad collarbone again, and he's down. I think his engine actually disintegrated entering that corner. It just lost all drive. It was either a chain, but from the smoke that was on the exhaust pipe, the smoke coming up from the bike, his bike just went from under him, and of course he landed very, very heavily on his shoulder, and he's down there, although he does seem to be quite aware of what's going on. We can see this one again now. The bike suddenly loses drive from the back end. A lot of smoke pours out from the exhaust pipe, and possibly that's a drastic engine failure there from Brian.
Well, he looks certainly shaken, but I'm pleased to say he looks, he's holding his hand to his head there, as you can see, and being helped off the track. But certainly from his point of view, he should be able to race again. He will have to go through in what we term, of course, the repechage, whereby he gets another opportunity. But helping him away there is Brian Carger, the fellow Dane, who's yet to ride. In fact, Brian Carger we will be seeing later on, but at the moment, from his point of view, well, Brian Anderson will have to race again, and that's not the sort of thing, Peter, when that happens to a rider, quite clearly, it's an element of surprise. He must be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, that's a mechanical failure that caused that, and really, he doesn't seem well at all. He landed very, very heavily, and he looks as though he's going towards the ambulance room. I think he's landed heavily on his head, actually. His collarbone does seem to be okay, so basically it looks as though he may have concussion or certainly a bad headache at the very least.
Well, the action will go on. Of course, the riders will find their places in the succeeding heats. But at the moment, we're going to move safely on to heat number 4. And again, 2 Brits in this one. Chris Louis, the England captain and the Ipswich rider, will be going for the inside in red. Andy Smith will be going from gate 2 in blue. And then in gate 3 will be Henrik Gustafsson from Sweden. And on the outside, Hans Nielsen. But there we see Chris Louis. And we spoke with him earlier. He's somewhat optimistic, Chris Louis, of his chances here, Peter, and Chris Louis is a man who really hasn't hit the high spots in this year's Grand Prix so far.
No, Chris has been struggling a bit in the Grand Prix, and he's not been as good as we've seen him in the past. I know he's had some injuries. He's still struggling off this back injury that he's got. I know we keep talking about injuries, but these Speedway riders certainly do ride out there with all kinds of problems, and it just seems an everyday thing that they should be picking up these injuries and carrying on riding. But we've got Andy Smith in there. Andy's like the Houdini on this Grand Prix circuit, and of course, you know, he's certainly capable of doing very, very well.
There we see Chris Louis in the red helmet colours getting on his way to take the 29-year-old Ipswich rider. In yellow there is 3 times individual world champion Hans Nielsen. He's not hit the highlights so far in the Grand Prix series this year. He says it's his last season, Hans Nielsen there, but I wonder, Peter, as a world champion yourself, whether he's got perhaps a few more pages to turn in his career yet.
Well, Hans is still a brilliant rider, but whether the will and the determination to win is still there is another question for Hans. I know he lives quite well in Denmark, and he's got a lot of other interests now as he's beginning to think about stepping out of Speedway.
We saw the girl walking across in front of the riders there to avoid any time confusion. 15 seconds to go was indicated to the riders, so there's no confusion this time, and this is something that's a little bit different this year, or rather in this Grand Prix. It's Chris Louis on the inside. Andy Smith, his fellow Brit, goes from gate 2. In gate 3 of the white helmet colours is Henrik Gustafsson, and on the outside in yellow and black, the Professor, Hans Nielsen, the oldest rider in the field. Hans Nielsen, 5 Grand Prix he's won since Grand Prix started in 1995. Away they go for the tapes. Nielsen fast away on the outside, pulling across in typical style and out in pursuit. Round the back of Chris Louis. Louis now in second place. A brilliant ride by Hans Nielsen from gate 4, leaving Chris Louis in second place. And for my money, they won't catch Hans Nielsen from this position, PC.
No, it's a great first turn from Hans. He went in wide, he went round the outside of Chris Louis that made the start, and now we can see he's leading this race. He's just pulling away from Chris, and I think they're probably struggling a bit from the heat out there. It's absolutely roasting there.
Well, it is hot, but the racing can be hot later on. At the back is Henrik Gustafsson. He's been disappointing in the Grand Prix this season, not riding in the British League this year. In third position, Andy Smith will have to race again. We've seen him do that so often. There in red is Chris Louis, comfortably in second place at the moment, but out front with time to look back is Hans Nielsen now with a lap to go. Hans Nielsen looking comfortable for a heat victory to take him on in this competition. It will be the best he's done so far because he started badly in the last 2 Grand Prix this year, but no problem this time for Hans Nielsen. The Professor takes this. Chris Louis comes up, but oh, Chris Louis picks him on the line. I just wonder whether there was some manoeuvring there by Hans Nielsen for a right place or to get himself in the right place for the next heat. But Chris Louis, the heat winner there, but only just ahead of Andy Smith in third place, and at the back Henrik Gustafsson. But I wonder whether it was tactics. Chris Louis finishing ahead of Hans Nielsen. Those two march on. Smith and Gustafsson will have to race again. But Peter, that was an extraordinary move by Hans Nielsen out front.
That was a very strange one. Whether that was tactical move there from Hans, maybe he feels he could get a better heat in another qualification heat. But I mean, really, he should be racing to the flag, and the referee should disqualify him if there is some gamesmanship going on there. Of course, we can see Chris Louis made that perfect start round that inside. He's hugging the inside, but Hans, he's out in the grip already. There's a lot of dirt. We can see it being thrown about. Hans dives down the back straight there, straight into that first place. Lots of grip, and he looks extremely fast, Hans. Of course, he's still there in that lead. Chris Louis trying very, very hard to stay with him. The track looks a little bit bumpy around that inside. Chris there in the red helmet. He's hugging that line. Of course, this is the last turn. Hans comes round that corner, shuts the bike off, looks across. Now, that was either mechanical or deliberate. I'm not in a position to say.
I wonder if it was deliberate, Peter, because it means he get the outside gate, which he had there when he goes in heat 7. DeBrookie, Crump and Scream will be racing against it. Maybe that's a choice. Plenty more action coming up here from the Wroclaw Stadium in Speedway Grand Prix.
Everybody's talking. You really must try harder, Simmons. Corey's lovely.
You've got to get a steady job.
It's so boring, I don't want to go to you anymore. You being serious? At your age, I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
You can't always choose what you want to do.
I wish I was rich.
Find out about yourself. Get help and ideas for your future. Call 0800 096 1615 for your free copy of the Reach for the Sky magazine and see what you can be.
I want to see the future my way.
You can't always explain why you love something.
I hate it.
You just do. It doesn't mean it's wrong or right. It's just different.
Things should be black or white.
But never grey.
So be bold.
Don't be afraid.
And be yourself. Stand up.
Stand out.
And be counted. Cross the line.
Get off the fence!
Create something pure.
It's better to provoke a reaction than none at all.
It's far better for some people to love something than everyone just to like it.
What a night we're having already in Sweden. A $25 million injection into the Grand Prix Speedway for the next 5 years. Plus, we're watching someone like Hans Nielsen think way ahead of the game there with, it looked to us like he shut the throttle going over the line to get a better heat position for his next race. Sam?
Well, when you're coming off gate 4, or well, when you're in heat 4 of the first round, the qualifying heats, you basically, whatever you do dictates the finish going into the next round. So he had a perfect opportunity to pick where he wanted to be. And as you see on TV here, he's turned the throttle off, but it looks like an engine failure. But he got his second place, and his second place put him in heat 7 on gate 4 in the same position he just took a start from.
Incredible. I mean, what are your views? You heard Peter Collins say that if that's the case, he should be disqualified. I mean, PC making up another rule by the sound of it, but good for PC, I reckon, because gamesmanship there. I mean, the professor really living up to his name.
Absolutely, but that's up to him, you know, if he feels that, you know, he can shut the throttle off and get gate 4 next time, that's fair enough. But I mean, you know, I'd hate to think it was going to backfire on him, and he didn't go through. You know, I think he should race all the way at the end. You can't beat winning races.
Well, we're going to see a lot more. There's Mark Laram, it's his last chance, and of course, if you were listening to me a minute ago, $25 million was announced today in Poland, of course, not Sweden. Back to our commentary team then. Peter Collins, making up the rules as he goes along, and Tony Millard.
We move on to heat number 5. This is an important one for Mark Laram there in the white helmet colours who goes from gate 3. Remember, the last 2 in this heat will be eliminated. They will receive respectively 1 and 2 Grand Prix points. The first 2 march on. This is a sort of repechage. It's like a mechanical musical chairs here in the Wroclaw Stadium. Laram must get first or second place to continue in this. John Jorgensen from Denmark goes on the inside. Mario Giraud from the Czech Republic, gate 2. Mark Laram from Britain goes from gate 3. On the outside, Henrik Gustafsson from Sweden. All will be trying to stay in the Grand Prix. Big money at stake. Our man Mark Laram in the white helmet colours goes from gate 3. Laram gets a half-decent start, cuts across, caught on the back, caught in the sandwich. All sorts of things happen, but look at there, Laram goes through on the inside. Back in third again, behind in red Jorgensen. In yellow on the outside is Gustafsson. Laram still has work to do. He got trapped a little there, PC.
Yeah, this is so crucial for Mark. He's got to be in those first 2 positions here. He's going to be trying his heart out here, but of course, there's a big race going on now with John Jorgensen and Henrik Gustafsson.
Yes, out front in the yellow helmet colours there is Gustafsson on the outside. On the inside in red is John Jorgensen. But the battle is joined because Mark Laram really has to race. He really has to turn it on. He really has to pick up some grip and some speed from somewhere. The action there in second place, vitally important for Mark Laram. I wonder if he can do it. He's fixing his racing line. He's trying, but he's certainly not going to make ground on this man Gustafsson out front. Can he battle in second place. Look at Mark Aram there, an awful lot to do, because it will be anti-climax if he tumbles out of this. The sun is shining, Mark Aram is trying, Mark Aram is battling. Can he do it? He's tried up the inside, but a fraction too late. Mark Aram will tumble out of that, because John Jorgensen gets second place in red. Mark Aram disappointingly back in third. No problem, Mario Girault is right out of this one in blue. The heat winner, Henrik Gustafsson, in yellow. Salutes the crowd. John Jorgensen in second place. And Mark Aram goes from tremendous glory and triumph in the last Grand Prix to abject disappointment as he tumbles out at the first attempt in this one here in Wroclaw. PC desperate for Mark.
Oh, he must be so shattered, so cheesed off with that one, because he's been the man on form, and we can see on the start there, Mark didn't make a good one. That's him in the white helmet. He's sandwiched there. The rider in blue catches him. That's Mario Girault. As they get to the first turn, Mark's in the middle of the pack. Now he tries the big move here. He tries to cut back up the inside, but for some reason he just doesn't seem to have enough speed. That there in the red helmet is John Jorgensen, who's also racing with broken ribs tonight. He's also injured, but of course he's holding that lead. But round the outside goes Henrik Gustafsson for that win. This is the last turn here. We can see Mark is trying so hard. He's trying everything he possibly can, and he just doesn't seem to have the speed to get around the outside in his usual manner. Again, we see it here from another angle. He's right in the thick of things, racing, taking all the dirt from those riders ahead of him, but it was all to no avail, because that third place means he's going to the showers and home for an early bath.
Well, it was a long journey for Mark Aram after his league meeting at Poland at Poole in midweek, all the way out to Wroclaw, and now sadly for him it's all the way home, but the meeting goes on without him as we move on to heat number 6, from which 2 more riders will tumble out of the Grand Prix. The last 2 go out. Remember, the first 2 march on. Bike number 16 there belongs to Britain's Andy Smith. He'll be going from gate 2 in the blue helmet colours. 14 there, that's Brian Anderson, the Dane, who we saw take a tumble. He goes from the outside in yellow and black. Of course, he went from the outside in his first race, and quite clearly, PC, he's got to ride a different machine here.
Yeah, he's got some work to do, that's for sure. We can see they're still working on these bikes there. We've got 1.4 minutes to go, and he's not got much time. You can see they're so critical now. There's a lot of shouting going on. There's all kinds of panic at the moment, because they know that if they don't get up to those tapes in time, they will be excluded. And there he goes out onto the track, and I'm sure with 48 seconds left, he's just going to make it.
I'll buy you a digital watch for Christmas, Peter. You can work out how to use it. 1.5 minutes. 1 minute and 5 seconds, that was.
I had a bit of panic myself, Tony.
On the inside, Billy Hamill. Peter trying to make the 2-minute rule himself. On the inside, Billy Hamill goes in red. In blue, we've just seen on screen Andy Smith. That man in white there is Ron Sullivan, the Australian who was disqualified first time out, excluded first time out for touching the tapes. Brian Anderson, who took a perler. Billy Hamill and Andy Smith on the inside. I just wonder about the gate positions, because so far, well, we saw Hans Nielsen take from the outside the race as he pleased. Billy Hamill going wide from the inside gate this time, the American. Andy Smith, the Brit so often, as Peter described, as the Houdini of Grand Prix racing in gate 2. Starting march moves away, and Andy Smith will probably be pulled out of that for tape touching, I think, there. He shot forward, the English referee, Tony Steele, holding things up. I'm not sure if it wasn't more than Andy Smith that hit the tapes, but we'll have to wait the referee's decision. The tapes are well and truly bound up in Andy Smith's machine, but if he goes out of this one, and I see the blue exclusion board held up there, which means that Andy Smith is the second Brit out of this in a very short space of time, and not exactly the right time for the Brits here tonight.
No, Andy tried to anticipate that start. He was there, sat at the tape, the green light came on, and then actually the rider on the outside, Brian Anderson, was pulled into the tapes there by Andy Smith, because Andy was the first one to move, and he's the one that's been excluded. I'm afraid, again, that's the rules. If you touch the tapes, and certainly Andy broke those tapes, then you're out, and Andy was the first one to move.
Well, sadly for Andy Smith, it means just 1 Grand Prix point for him, just 2 for Mark Aram, and with Joe Screen and Chris Louis remaining in the event, well, it's not been a great night so far for British riders, and at the moment, well, things looking good for the people here in Poland, because all their riders are still in. And Peter, really that must be desperately disappointing for Andy Smith.
Well, it is, because I mean that would have only been his second ride. I mean, he's only actually done 4 laps around the circuit, and I mean, he's very disappointed with that.
Well, back home watching in the studio is Sam Ermolenko. I just wonder what Sam thought about the sad tale of Andy Smith and Mark Oran, perhaps.
Well, I mean, what can I say? There you go. It looked like to me in that last race touch and tape, maybe Billy might have jumped a little bit, you know. But as far as Mark Laram goes, I mean, he looks like he's either overpowered or possibly doesn't got enough power. He's either wheel spinning or he just doesn't got enough.
Well, we see the pits, somebody on the pits phone there, Andy Smith complaining on the pits phone indeed. And I just don't know what he's got to complain about, whether the tape's got caught up in his bar card through no doing of his, Peter.
Well, he probably feels that maybe Billy Hamill moved first, but Billy didn't touch the tape first. I think really what happened was Billy may have moved and Andy did move next, and Andy was the first one to touch the tape, so that's the story.
Well, he is excluded. Referee Tony Steele suffering no nonsense. Billy Hamill on the inside. Ron Sullivan, gate 3. Brian Anderson on the outside goes from gate 4. 3 different nations. The starting marshal moves away. Up go the tapes. This time they stay still. Coming across from the outside in yellow is Brian Anderson. Going through is the mate in the sand, which is Ron Sullivan. Better luck for him this time. Billy Hamill in second place. Remember, the first 2 go through and they march on. The last man will go out alongside the unfortunate Andy Smith with 1 lap completed, looking mighty good for Ron Sullivan, who jetted round those first and second bends and opened up that gap, now pursued by Billy Hamill. But back in third place, Brian Anderson, struggling with injury, struggling with position at the moment, struggling with power and struggling with just about everything, PC.
Yeah, Ryan Sullivan's doing very, very well here, because remember, he was excluded from his first heat, so he's not been on the track before. To do a very hard first corner like he did ahead of Billy Hamill was marvellous, because, you know, he's not got used to the track, he doesn't know where the bumps are, but he's out in front.
See the lap counter, top left-hand corner of your screen, but out in front and going well is Ron Sullivan. The Aussie marches on. Brian Anderson trying to make a challenge in second place behind his own Coventry teammate Billy Hamill, but Hamill looks to have this second place with some comfort at the moment. Ron Sullivan certainly has the comfort out front. Ron Sullivan wins this with some ease there in the end in white, ahead of Billy Hamill in red. It means that Brian Anderson disappears out of this to accompany the unfortunate Andy Smith in the blue helmet colours, but no such problem for the Australian Ron Sullivan out front. The 23-year-old will be very, very happy with that as he goes through to Heat 10 to join the big boys. Billy Hamill, of course, there through in second place in Heat 9. Brian Anderson, well, he can go home along with Andy Smith, and so far Mario, you're out, and Mark Oran.
Yeah, this is the start. On the outside, that's Brian Anderson. He's not quite made it. Of course, there's Ryan Sullivan. He's right in the middle of the pack there. He's got Billy Hamill on the inside of him. But when he gets to the turn, he turns slightly later than Billy. He makes a run for that bit of grip, but we can see the track is becoming quite bumpy. Whether that's holes in the base or whether that's just loose dirt on the top, that'll become more apparent as the meeting progresses. But we can see that Ryan has already got a good commanding lead coming out of that first turn ahead of Billy Hamill. Billy tucks in beside him there on the inside line, just staying out of the dirt, but there does seem to be quite a bit of dust and bumps around on the track right now, and you know, they need quite a bit of track grading to be done from now on, I think, Tony.
Well, lots of activity in the pits now as we move on to heat number 7. We see there in the yellow helmet colour, Hans Nielsen. We'll find out when it starts exactly whether or not his manoeuvre at the end of his previous ride in heat number 4 will actually be shown to good effect. In the red helmet colours there is Rafael Dabrowski, who was very impressive first time out. The Polish rider here. He, of course, one of the wild cards tonight, wearing number 24. Remember, Mark Laram was the other, wearing number 23. A bit of lubrication for the clutch mechanism there for the pole, with plenty of mechanics here in his home country. Nielsen already up early to the outside. The rider in gate 2 is Jason Crump, who also, with a victory in heat number 3, was pretty impressive first time out. Remember, Hans Nielsen conceded in heat number 4 to Chris Louis that victory. I'm sure that Hans Nielsen will know what he's doing. The professor, so educated about what's needed in World Speedway. 3 times an individual world champion. There in red, though, the wild card from Poland, Rafael Dabrowski. And I think, well, Peter, he could spring a surprise and win this one as well.
Yeah, he's very, very fast, there's no doubt about it. And his home knowledge of these Polish tracks basically is going to mean such a lot to him. And he's on the inside start position, so there's nobody on the left of him that's going to perhaps get in his way when he gets to that first turn. But of course, there's Hans on the outside, that cunning old fox.
We know where he'll be going for. He's almost got his machine pointing in that direction to the apex of the bend. It's Dabrowski on the inside. Jason Crump goes from gate 2. Joe Screen, one of the 2 remaining hosts from Britain, goes from gate 3. And on the outside, Hans Nielsen, of course, not riding the British Elite League this season, but has ridden, of course, for a number of top clubs in the past. Hans Nielsen, the oldest rider in the field tonight. 5 Grand Prix victories in the Grand Prix series behind him. There he goes from the outside to cut across and pick it up, and he's done exactly what we predicted. Pursued in white by Joe Screen. If he can hold that, that'll be to his advantage. Brusky back in 3rd place, now has to do the chasing. Disappointment too, but Joe Screen going well. In the blue helmet colours there is Jason Crump, who's struggling, but Hans Nielsen, typical of Nielsen, at his best 10 years ago, PC.
Hans really means business, doesn't he? I mean, the way he came off the outside start position was brilliant. He's really on the boil tonight, and his mind must be doing overtime to be thinking of moves like he was in that first race, thinking about start positions when he's out there racing. But of course, the good news in this one is Joe Screen's tucked right in there behind Hans Nielsen.
Well, I just wonder whether he concede 2nd place in this one as well to choose his gates. I think he'd be satisfied to win this and march on, but Hans Nielsen is going well. In 2nd place there is Joe Screen. He'll march on as well. The others will have work to do, but we'll have another opportunity. Crump moving through. Crump has work to do. There's the man in white. That's Joe Screen. Look at Jason Crump making ground in 3rd place. Trying to catch him. I don't think he will. Nielsen has time to look back to Joe Screen in white, Jason Crump in 3rd place in blue. Crump and Tobrusky will have to go again. Nielsen and Screen will march on, and I think, well, having got to that stage, Hans Nielsen will be delighted to win heat number 7, and he'll reckon that manoeuvre may well have been profitable for him in his early heat when he came 2nd in heat number 4. Hans Nielsen knows what he's doing in World Speedway and has done for many, many years.
Yeah, that's Hans there off the outside. Now, he must be really confident that he can make it, because his bike's aiming slightly across of Joe Screen, so when they get to the corner, he's already blocked Joe's line into that first turn. But Hans has got fresh air, he's completely in front. As he goes round there, you can see Jason Crump trying the brave line around the outside. Now, Joe Screen's done a very good move here by tucking in behind Hans Nielsen, because Hans is riding the quick line and Joe's right there with him, and that's basically how it stayed, because Hans rode that quick line with Joe there in that 2nd place, and Jason Crump, try how hard he could, he just couldn't get past either of those two. There, you can see that angle again, that's the first turn as they come out, and Jason Crump's getting pushed around there by Rafael Dabrowski. But of course, what a great result there for Hans Nielsen.
And I can tell you already that win for Hans Nielsen in Heat 7 will place him alongside Jimmy Nielsen and Brian Carger in Heat 11 when he'll be going from Gate 3. More on that in a moment as the racing moves on and we move on to Heat number 8. And in this heat we have Greg Hancock coming out in the red helmet colours, Chris Louis, one of Britain's remaining hopes. Remember, Joe Screen is still in it, Roland Danos from Poland, and Michael Carlson. This is the field for this Heat 8. The sun is going down behind the clouds. It's been a magnificent day for the Poles to conduct their sunbathing in heat of near 90 degrees. There is Greg Hancock, a back view of the Coventry rider, former world champion, of course. In blue there is Chris Louis, the Ipswich captain. He won Heat 4 in that controversial finish, dare I say it, with Hans Nielsen. The rider in white, we get Polish cheers here, is Roland Danos. The outside, you can just see the number 18 in his bike there, is Michael Carlson. Peter Collins, Greg Hancock on the inside, on his home league track in Poland. Well, he could take this, but can Louis get 2nd place?
Well, I think Greg must have been trying something new last week in that league match when he only got 7 points. He's probably had a total rechange of his thinking for this meeting, and whatever he's doing, it really seems to be working, because he won that first ride, but like a rocket.
Well, I wonder if he'll do it again from the start here. Starting marshal getting a bit fussy. This giant stadium was built for the Olympics back in the 30s when it was considered this was part of Germany. It was never used, I can tell you. But it is now used for Speedway. Away they go on the inside in red. There is Greg Hancock. Coming round in blue is Chris Louis. In white, shadowing him is Roland Danos. Going through. Oh, what a brilliant ride there for Chris Louis as he comes through here now. And look at this. The action is joined. Louis out front. That is the chase is on now. Back in 3rd place is Hancock. But Louis is going well. In 2nd place it's Michael Carlson. But somehow Chris Louis found a line to suit him and stretched his lead.
Yeah, this is when we're flying the Union Jack again. Chris did a great first turn there, and to be leading that race, he had so much speed down that back straight, and he's just edging ahead of the opposition. But of course, Michael Carlson's having a good row, a good go around the inside. But of course, Greg Hancock's struggling in that 3rd place.
Greg Hancock, though, making ground there, trying to pick his line. trying to put the brightness on Carlson, this time going through the inside, not quite making it, but still the challenge is on in second place. Neither is really threatening Chris Louis out front. Hancock is picking his line. Hancock this time going wide. Will he send Carlson wide and dive up the inside? We'll have to wait and see. Carlson shuts the door. Hancock goes round the outside. Louis holds it out front. The battle is there in second place, but just in second place is Michael Carlson in yellow. No doubt about the winner, Chris Louis there. With Michael Carlson in yellow, Greg Hancock will have to try again. The eclipse of Hancock, a shade disappointing. Roland Dados at the rear, really not at the races, but Chris Louis marches on, and that could be a very important heat victory for the Ipswich and England captain, Chris Louis. He goes through to heat 12.
Well, this is the start. On the outside, it's Michael Carlson, who did a great ride, but of course, there's Chris Louis in the blue helmet. He's right in the middle of a sandwich. He's making a brilliant first turn. He's pulling away now from Robert Dados. Robert Dados, the home Polish specialist. Chris Louis got a great riding line round that first turn. The bike's bucking and rearing. That's Dados on the outside, getting showered in dirt. Those dirt flexors don't seem to be doing that much for him.
Well, we certainly know that Chris Louis did it well. He'll be in a heat along with Tony Ricardson, Tony Casper and Joe Screen in hit 12. That and much more coming up after the break.
Here come England, stirring stuff and a tremendous atmosphere in the ground. Now a chance for Scotland to break, and he's away, he's under the post, that is amazing!
Exclusively live from Twickenham, England v Scotland on Ford International Rugby next Saturday, Sky Sports 2.
Give me the ball. No.
With a game this big, there's not a rugby player in the world who wouldn't like to get his hands on the ball.
It's my ball.
If you're buying a used car, Ford Direct gets rid of all those niggling worries. All our cars come with a full history and are RAC approved. And after you've bought, there are no mechanical worries because you get a Ford 12-month unlimited mileage warranty. Ford Direct. Used Fords that put a smile on your face.
With British Airways telephone check-in, you spend less time at the airport. Which is why, even though she's never flown in her life, Isabella's favorite airline is the world's favorite airline.
Round 3 of the Speedway Grand Prix continues at Wroclaw in Poland. And we are getting all the action here on Sky Sports, and it's live and exclusive. Certainly plenty to talk about as far as today's going. So far, I have to say that looked to me like Billy Hamill was playing a bit of a game there to me with his slightly jump start, just fooling the rest of them into some broken tape. So we're going to get a chance to take a look at that again right now, I hope, where we can see whether Billy Hamill joins Nielsen in the gamesmanship stakes. He's in red. Take a look at this. Sam, talk us through it.
Well, just right then, he just glitched a little bit, but
well, we can see it again. We'll keep an eye on it and talk us through it again.
Okay.
Here it comes.
Right. Just see the guy in the red helmet. It just moves a little bit. His wheel's about half a foot away from the tapes. Just moves that little bit. When you're sitting there in you're concentrating fully on whatever moves. And if anybody makes a move, and Billy just made that slight move, and Smith just went for it, you know, and that's what it's all about. But
Andy Smith's out. Well, how do you view that, Gary? I mean, it's a bit unfortunate for Andy Smith.
It's very unfortunate. You know, I've had it happen to me before in the past. When speed riders don't look at the actual tapes, where you watch the little catch on the edge. So if you're off gate 2 or gate 3, you're always looking across the front of somebody. And if the guy in one of them gates jumps or moves at all, like Sam said, you're concentrating so hard that anything that moves in you.
Just to make it clear, Billy wouldn't have done that as a bit of gamesmanship. He would have just been unfortunate.
So. I mean, people do it as gamesmanship, but I think in a big meeting like this, I don't think he would be risking.
Billy actually in his very first heat jumped as well, tried to anticipate it as well. So I just think he's really keen to make the start and sometimes you can get away with it. You can just make that little jump and then it rolls and the tapes go up and the referee doesn't catch it. You know, that's a bit of an advantage.
Well, we've lost Andy Smith. We've lost Mark Laram, the winner of the last round. Chris Louis looking pretty good, and Joe Screen looks like he's fighting for it tonight as well.
Yeah, Chris Louis looks really good out of the start. He really looks confident. He said earlier they did a lot of horsepower in his bike. Seems to be going good for him.
Interesting point there. We've seen a lot of slow bikes. Mark Laram looked like he was on a slow bike tonight as well. We've seen a lot that look like fast bikes. Tell me about it.
Well, I think, you know, like I say, it's a big fast track and you do need a lot of horsepower there. And I think as the higher seeds come in later on, I think we'll notice certainly people like Jimmy Nilsson who've got really fast bikes, could make a real impact on this meeting.
Okay, well, we're about to kick off again down in Poland. And of course, Peter Collins and Tony Millard are ready to pick up the action from trackside as we drop down into just 1 minute before we start losing riders because of that 2-minute rule to the gate. Tony.
Well, there you see the clock disappearing off your screen, 1 minute and 10 seconds. There's the time remaining for the riders to get on their way to tapes. The British referee is Tony Steele, who's certainly being exactly pedantic and perhaps exactly right here. He has a girl marching up in front of the tapes with 15 seconds on it, if there's any more time. But there we have heat number 9 now on your screen. Henrik Gustafsson's on the inside in the red helmet colours from Sweden. Gate 2, as we see the camera moving across, is to be occupied by Billy Hamill, and the blue helmet colours pulling back from tapes there. Gate 3 and holding back 2 in white is Jason Crump, and on the outside in yellow and black from Poland is Roland Danos. Remember, the last 2 riders in this heat are eliminated from the action, and the first 2 march on to the main stages of the competition. It's Gustafsson on the inside, Hamill from gate 2. There's the 15-second board held up by that girl. Jason Crump goes from gate 3, Roland Danos on the outside. Gustafsson coming wide from gate 1 as he looks down towards the tapes. A loose footrest there, but away they go. Gustafsson can't keep it down, coming through in blue. Well, Gustafsson does hold it tight on the bend, and now the chase is on behind the Swede because Crump's in second place. Crump is going all the way round the outside. Crump is picking up the speed, and Billy Hamill is left in blue in his wake at the back now, as coming through in yellow is Roland Danos. But these 2 out front have the battle, and they are riding brilliantly. No sign of injury for Jason Crump, but in the yellow helmet colours, Roland Danos is there putting some pressure on too. Back in third place here, but out front it's Jason Crump. Jason Crump is passed by the rider in red, Henrik Gustafsson. Gustafsson is there now with Crump in second place. And back in third is Roland Danos, and Hamill is out of this, but look at the riding there by Jason Crump as the chase is on. And Peter, it looks as if the front 2 will qualify with a vengeance here.
Yeah, Henrik Gustafsson is riding better than I've seen him ride for a while. He's going very, very well, of course. Jason Crump is in pursuit, but these 2 will go through to the next stage, so if they hold these positions, that's exactly what they want to do.
Processional is this race. Gustafsson really well, riding better than we've seen as he takes the checkered flag in red there. In second place is Jason Crump, and another disappointment for Billy Hamill as he tumbles out of this, the world champion of 3 years ago. But Henrik Gustafsson, who so often has flattered to deceive, has certainly thrilled the shirt sleeve crowd. Roland Danos finished in third place. He goes out, of course, along with Billy Hamill. Disappointment for the American, disappointment for the Pole, but glory for Henrik Gustafsson and Jason Crump as they march on.
Yeah, this is the start, of course. On the outside, Robert Danos misses it altogether. There's Jason Crump in the white helmet. Of course, that's Danos there, turning round on that first turn. The dirt coming up from the back wheel there as they rush into the first turn, but that's Jason Crump. When he gets to the turn, he gets pushed very, very wide as he tries to go round the outside of Billy Hamill. He just about sees off the challenge from Billy Hamill, but there's Henrik Gustafsson, who's holding a great line and rode very, very fast in that race to take that first place. He's looking back there, looking for Jason Crump, but he knows he's got this race sewn up and that qualification place to the main round.
It means for Henrik Gustafsson he'll be racing against Lee Adams and Stefan Dano in Heat 13. And Crump's second place means he'll be up against Thomas Gollub and Peter Carlson. But Heat 10 provides the same sort of pattern. The last 2 riders go out, the front 2 march on. There in the yellow and black helmet colours is Rafael Dobruski of Poland. Ron Sullivan will be going from the inside. We can see in the background there in the blue helmet colours John Jorgensen, the Dane. As the riders push out towards the tapes. It's cooling down here in the Olympic Stadium as the sun goes down. And certainly it'll be a balmy summer's evening in Wroclaw, and the Polish fans will enjoy it even more well into the night. their favourite man, Thomas Gollub, who won the first Grand Prix here in Wroclaw, takes the honours on the rostrum here tonight. There on the inside, Ron Sullivan, one of many riders trying to deny Thomas Gollub, the 28-year-old from Bydgoszcz. But here now, at heat number 10, that man in blue there is John Jorgensen, the Dane, who's battled through. Second place in heat 5, earned him his place in this one. There in the white helmet colours is Greg Hancock on his home league track in Poland. And he finished a disappointing 3rd in heat 8. On the outside, Rafael Dobruski, he was 4th in heat 7 to earn his place the outside gate. This is going to be a battle, Peter.
It is. It's always a shame when you get to this point where two riders are going to go out, and Rafael Dobruski on the outside, he's got that wide open space, so we'll see if he can give that big blast around the first turner in all that loose dirt.
On the inside, Sullivan. Next to him, John Jorgensen. Gate 3 is Greg Hancock. On the outside, Rafael Dobruski in the yellow helmet. The starting marshal. You see the gap there as they push across to leave a big gap for the pole on the outside. He looks across. Having struggles on the inside is Ron Sullivan. Picking it up well though in the end as he goes away. But look at the pole, Dobruski on the outside as he picks up the grip, the speed, and backed by the cheers of the Polish fans all the way around the outside to pick this up and lead down the home straight. Now pursued by, in red, Ron Sullivan. Back in 3rd place in white is Greg Hancock. Disappointment for him unless he can do some work and pick up some speed. Will it be another world champion going out in the early stages? And I wonder where it went wrong for Greg Hancock there, Peter.
Well, he didn't make the start, did he? On the outside was Dobruski, like we thought. He got in that outside dirt straight away and just went for it. Cruised around the outside of them, but poor old Greg Hancock, he's going to be taking an early bath as well by the way things are going.
Some big names tumbling out already, but the Polish riders really coming into their own on this big, wide track here in Wroclaw in the heat as Dobruski goes down the back straight in front, looking good and going well and stretching that lead out front. But we see Ron Sullivan in 2nd place is going to carry the flag of Australia on even further here. Back in 3rd in white. Disappointment there for Greg Hancock. And even more disappointment for John Jorgensen in blue. But no problem out front for Rafael Dobruski. And in 2nd place, Ron Sullivan in red. Both of those will march on. Well, look at this. There we see Greg Hancock and John Jorgensen are the men who go out. Rafael Dobruski and Ron Sullivan march on, Peter. And really, one or two big names tumbling out very, very early on.
Well, Hancock and Hamill both going out there. That's very, very unexpected because they, you know, they're front runners. We can see the start now. Dobruski's on the outside, number 24. We can see that he makes a perfect start there. He's got his head down, he's focused on what he's doing. He's not getting involved with the pushing and shoving inside him there. The rider in blue, John Jorgensen, gets pushed wide, but a good first turn also from Ryan Sullivan. He knows he's got to finish in the first 2 places, but he's got no answer to Dobruski, who's on the outside. Ryan gets such a lot of grip there on the inside. He stands it on the back wheel, but controls it very, very well. Now he's covering that 2nd place by diving down to the inside line. He's going to have a go around the inside, but you see Dobruski's back wheel really lift off the ground there. There must be a terrible bad bump just going into that first turn. We can see it, and of course, he's there just about hanging on to that 1st place. By the time they get to the finish, he almost runs into the fence, but he knows he's won the race, and of course, Ryan Sullivan was right behind him.
Disappointment then for Greg Hancock with just 4 Grand Prix points. He stays down at the bottom, but the sun continues to shine here in this Olympic Stadium at Wroclaw, where we'll be bringing you more action shortly.
Antiques in Springfield.
I'd expect this to bring $20,000 to $30,000, except that on the handle somebody's carved Homer Rocks.
And I do.
Appraised value, $15.
And you, what's up with that getup? I told you to wear something inconspicuous so you don't get noticed. I won't be. How you like me now? Super bad. Bad super. Super bad. Give me that ball or I'll slice your guts out, hippie. Yeah.
It's an animation fest this Sunday from 6, Sky 1.
In a head-on collision at 30 miles per hour, your body weight is multiplied by up to 25 times, which is why every new Citroën Zara comes with ABS to stop you short of trouble, and 4 airbags should the unexpected happen. The Citroën Zara, now from £10,495. Confidence comes as standard.
What pushed Carl Fogarty to his third World Superbike Championship last year?
For an unprecedented fourth title, he'll need an even bigger push at Brands this year. Book now and give Foggy your support.
This is Poland, and the reason that 40,000 people have turned out today is for series leader here in the green, Thomas Gollub, to the left of your picture. Keeping an eye there on De Broeke. De Broeke is the man who just got a puncture and still finished in first place in the last heat, qualifying him through. De Broeke there probably giving Gollub a little bit of an update on what's going on down on the track. And remember, we're going to see Gollub in heat 14. That's in this part, so Gollub will be out on the track as a seeded rider in heat 14. And here we are back in the studio. Now then, De Broeke, very lucky there to actually finish that race. He looked like he fell in a big hole and got himself a puncture in the closing bend.
Well, we were just discussing about some of the Polish riders over there run really low tire pressure, thinking that it's going to help them get the traction a bit more. But when you get a track that's a bit choppy, it can be very dangerous, and I think that's what happened. He was bouncing around, and that just probably broke the bead of the tire and gave him a puncture. Well,
it also knocked his chain off by the look of it as well. His chain was off by the time he got to the line.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at who's been actually knocked out now, if we can, in this first part of the thing. We'll have a word with Gary in a moment. I can see he was keen to get to me there. Robert Dados then is out. Greg Hancock is out. These are the shots for me. Greg Hancock, Billy Hamill, John Jorgensen is out as well. Mark Laram out. Brian Anderson, another man that I didn't expect to go out so quick. Giroux and Andy Smith is out too. That's the points that they've scored for their efforts so far this evening. It will be no consolation, that is for certain. And here are the riders that go through to the main event, and this will also be the order they're appearing in the rest of the meeting. Hans Nielsen, who seems to be riding much better this week. Michael Carlson, Chris Louis, who's fighting back as well. Joe Screen looks to be as if he's up for it this evening. Henke Gustafsson back on some kind of form at Grand Prix level. Ryan Sullivan's there. Rafael De Broeke, slightly lucky possibly to go through after his puncture and chain coming off his bike in the last heat. Jason Crump also through. That's how it all happens, and we're going to be picking up Jimmy Nielsen and Brian Carger, first of the seeded riders out. So this first heat back for Hans Nielsen and Michael Carlson. What's your views on that, Sam?
Well, I think Jimmy, as Gary mentioned earlier, has got some really fast motors right now. He's coming off the inside, which has been a pretty good gate throughout the event so far. Brian Carger, I'm not so sure if he's up to this challenge, but he's a bit like John Jorgensen a bit. I mean, he's a spoiler, he can get in front. Hans Nielsen, which is on form at the moment on the track, but coming off gate 3, possibly not the best starting position. And then you got Michael Carlson, which did come off of gate 4, but didn't really make any impression on the gate, but made a good cutback and got into second place to qualify for that heat.
Okay, let's leap forward with you, Gary, to heat 12, where we've got both Chris Louis and Joe Screen out, and what a tough one that's going to be, because Tony Rickardson looks in good form as well at this track, apparently. Sam was saying a little earlier on.
Apparently Sam said he saw him there, excuse me, a couple of weeks ago, and he was absolutely flying around there. But you know, it's good to see a couple of English boys getting through. Mark's had a disappointment, as you said. A couple of the big guns, Mark and Billy and Greg, all gone out, and it just sort of throws up the system really. You know, it makes it really exciting that, you know, different riders getting through rather than seeing the same riders doing it all the time.
Indeed, although I don't think that's going to be any consolation for him anyway. Anyway, we know that Thomas Gollub is in great form at the moment at World Championship level and in the Elite League. This is what happened in Ipswich versus Hull last week on our coverage. He scored a maximum.
Has got to battle now because Thomas Gollub is out, but look at Sam coming through. We got a race on here. Thomas Gollub is taking this like a pinch of salt. Look who's in front, Thomas Gollub again. If they head him from there, it'll be amazing. He's so fast, he's so furious. He's got everything right on his bike too. He's got the line right that he's riding. He's got the speed. A challenge at the back at the moment facing him from Brett Woodfield. There we see Woodfield in white putting the challenge on. But out front there in the checkered flag, Thomas Gollub does another wheelie. There in red is Thomas Gollub on the inside. This promises to be quite a bad. Gollub's
is just gone.
Well, Gollub is gone. Gollub is flying. Gollub is set for another 3 points and a hat-trick of heat victories to keep his side in front. Thomas Gollub there in the red helmet colours has now got his 3rd successive heat victory. The wheelies celebrate. Thomas Gollub is going for the apex of the bend. Oh, and he's made it. A bit of pushing and shoving as he goes wide. And Thomas Gollub is the man with a move from the tapes there that could have turned the meeting and piled up the points for the home side. It looks as if it's all over for the whole Vikings. That outside start from Thomas Gollub is what decided the heat. Here we go for the 6-lap finale tonight. And there goes Gollub from the outside across. And from here on for 6 laps, well, Thomas Gollub will surely take it away now. With half a lap to go, Thomas Gollub isn't finding it too difficult there. And there is your first televised maximum. There is the wheelie. There's the celebrations. And what a night it's been for Thomas Gollub.
Well, Sam, you got a bit of a close look at that, didn't you? Was he on a 650?
Well, we would never know that, will we? There was some hints that maybe they were going to tear him down and have a look, but nah, I don't think so. I just think he was on form. He was going good. You know, it was just unfortunate I couldn't beat him.
How good is he, Gary, Thomas Gollub? I mean, he's been around in Grand Prix level. We've been looking at him here on Sky Sports for a while. He's certainly aggressive.
He's certainly aggressive, and he's certainly a fantastic motorcyclist. You can see the way he rides the bike, the way he lets the wheels run. He keeps his wheels in line all the time and generates an awful lot of speed, but yet to see whether he's got the right temperament to go all the way.
Well, with De Bruyke going through in this particular meeting and Gollub right there leading the World Championship at the moment, the crowd are going to go nuts, aren't they? 40,000 people at trackside at Wroclaw.
One of the things I've noticed about Gollub is his bike's got to be set up for him. You know, I've seen him have terrible meetings. His bike wasn't good enough. Maybe he's blown an engine, his second bike wasn't good enough or whatever. So I think it comes down to definitely good engines.
Interesting you should say that. Of course, having good engines is one thing, but track conditions here at Wroclaw, we've seen already, quite bumpy. We take a look at De Bruyke again here, bouncing his way through the last turn. Very lucky. Now, there's some big holes around here. Keep an eye on this. Talk us through it, Gary.
Yeah, there was a huge hole there coming in on the fence where everybody seems to turn on the outside, and the track looks quite choppy as well. A lot of the Polish tracks get like that. It's a sort of shale, sandy sort of shale that they have down.
Is Gollub going to have any advantage? Are the local men going to have any advantage, or does everybody at some stage during the course of the year? I know. Do they ride this track?
I think it all depends how he uses the crowd. You know, if you've got an awful, you know, I've never actually ridden in front of 40,000 English fans, but you know, if he uses that to his advantage and gets him pumped up, or if he doesn't, you know, it obviously depends how he reacts and how he rides. I mean, the track, he's rode it many times. He's won the Grand Prix there before, and the track will certainly hold no fears for him.
Sam, they kept the covers on the track to keep moisture in it until 5 o'clock this afternoon to try and keep the thing damp as well. What are your views on the track?
Well, I think we haven't really mentioned it, but yesterday in practice they had a heavy thunderstorm, so the track was literally completely wet, and only half the guys got through it. But that's probably why some of the bumps here, you can see him going in the corner here, it's just right at the crucial point going in when you want to make a challenge. It throws you in the corner. And then like last year, Thomas Gollub won this event. He rode really super big lines. If he's going to be out there in that stuff, there could be some drama. And if you're running your tire a little bit too low in pressure to get the traction out of the start, you could have the effect the same as he did with the flat tire.
Okay, what have we seen today? We've seen the men that are going through into the main event. On their form at the moment, the 8 that are going through, who's the pick of the bunch for you, Gary?
Well, personally, I think, you know, we've seen the track is a bit choppy, and there isn't an awful lot of dirt out there, and we haven't really seen very much passing. And I think the guys now are coming into it, the level that they ride at and the speed of their engines, it's going to be all down to gating. And I think, you know, maybe someone like Jamie Nilsson, the way he starts, could be a favourite.
Well, Sam, you were looking at a race meeting here a week ago on Polish television while they were out there. You ever seen scenes quite like this? The sun is shining, the fans are out, the family's out, shirts are off. It's remarkable.
It's a beautiful scene there, definitely. And last week when I watched it on the television, it was a similar kind of track as this one today. And Rickardsson was in the away team from Gdansk, and he was just unbelievably fast. If there's anything, if that echoes on today, he's going to be hard to beat.
Well, you can see why someone's got interested with a $25 million deal, can't you? Because Speedway is alive and kicking worldwide. You can see the shadows now have covered the entirety of the track. Now that the sun's going down and the seeded riders are coming out and the track conditions aren't quite what they maybe ought to be, how difficult is it? Well, I ask you this one every time in Grand Prix, but with Wroclaw as a particular, how difficult is it going to be for these seeded guys as they hit the track for the first time today?
It's starting to be a natural progression. I think the guys realize that their event starts, halfway through, and it's really important probably just to make sure that your bike's set up to get out of the start, and that's really the main thing on this event today. Is just you got to get out there and go, and just everything that you just got to put it behind you and go out there and make it work. It's just got to be pretty special.
The first part of this show today, for me, I've seen some tremendous differences in the motorcycles out on the track. I think more than any other Grand Prix I've watched, some bikes look dog slow and some of them look like rockets. I've never really seen that in a Grand Prix. There's always been much of a... You guys usually sit here and say, oh, he's got a fast bike, but you never really see it much on screen. Why are we seeing such a major difference in motorcycles here, Gary?
It's difficult to say, Keith. I mean, you looked at Matt Lawrence there tonight and he looked slow. I mean, I don't know whether it was because his bike was slow or because it was spinning too much, maybe it was too fast, but he certainly didn't have the amount of traction that he's been getting, watching him all around the tracks around England and in the last GP, the way he was riding. You can tell he was riding just as hard and just as fast, but obviously his setup wasn't working, and it all comes down to engine setups, how you have your engine set up for a particular track, for a particular day. Well,
I wonder if $25 million has managed to drag a few extra punters in here, because there's certainly some scenes and some signs around the track at the moment.
I would like to add a little bit to that comment. I think that some of this, the reason you're seeing such a difference in the equipment at the moment is probably because the practice was spoiled yesterday. It wasn't a good track. I don't think a lot of the riders all got out there, tried all their equipment, probably because you have to prep the bikes again overnight, get the bikes all clean again. And maybe some of them were second-guessed what they really should be riding, thinking it was the right bike for the track conditions. And now that they've had a go, now this could play hard on the main event guys.
Is there going to be a situation, as we take a look then at the eliminated riders there? Greg Hancock with 31 Grand Prix points to his name. Mark Loran with 27, only adding 2 to his tally after the last Grand Prix. John Jorgensen is out, Andy Smith is out, Robert Dados is out, Billy Hamill is out, remarkable. Brian Anderson is out, and Giro is out. His Grand Prix tally is only 4 Grand Prix points overall anyway. So, Hancock out, Loran out, Hamill out. 3 of the top names, I would say, there.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It's unbelievable for me that we've got that situation. Do you think, with the track conditions being like in road racing, if conditions had changed from one day to the next and the guys hadn't practiced on a track that had changed, they would be given 20 minutes of practice time on the track as it is? Is there a situation, do you think, in Speedway where possibly these guys should have been allowed for a bit of pre-match testing?
Well, with the conditions of Speedway, we totally rely on having a little dirt on the racetrack. And if they have a practice session, sometimes it's difficult to get that kind of condition back into the track. It takes overnight for it to settle down, so you at least have a good racetrack. So I think I'm not very favorable of having practice on a racetrack before, especially the ones that they're using in the Grand Prix.
Gary, anything to add?
No, I mean, as I've said, there's a lot of technical problems they're trying to set up. They're trying to keep the fence clean for the TV, and as you said about the track, they would have to be out there grading and watering it and trying to get it back. And it's not in the rules, and Ollie's a right stickler for anything that's not in the rules. It's not happening, unless he wants it to, in which case he changes it.
Maybe $25 million will sort that particular problem out.
Sure,
but anyway, moving back on, without looking at the seeded riders yet, because this is the first time we're going to see 2 of them, Jimmy Nielsen and Brian Carger. Predictions through to the final. Very quickly, Jim.
Well, I think all the guys in Gate 1 have a good chance. They're all heavy hitters. Jimmy Nielsen, Tony Rickardson, Lee Adams, and Thomas Gollub.
Want to add to that, Gary?
Yeah, maybe Screen, Gustafsson and Crump.
Hey, that's what I like, a bit different. Well, I'm going to go for Chris Louis in there as well, because he's looking like he's back on some kind of a form. We can cross back now to Poland, Wroclaw, and they are about to come under the 2-minute clock in a minute. Remember, the 2-minute rule still applies. There should have been a 15-second board down on the grid as well. In fact, I think we've got, yes, Tony Rickardson actually put a clock, a watch, on his handlebars for this race meeting, so he knows exactly what's going on. Only 44 seconds left for them to make it to the tapes without being excluded. I'm sure it's something. So a watch on the handlebars for Tony Rickardson. At least he won't be late as far as that's concerned. And 2 men that won't be late for us are, of course, Peter Collins and Tony Millard in the commentary box.
You join us for Heat 11. The heat going slightly down, dare I say. There's the 15-second time scale with the good lady across the starting tapes to tell the riders that's how long they have. Jimmy Nielsen on the inside, Brian Carger gate 2, Hans Nielsen gate 3, and the prolific gate 4 sees Michael Carlson in the yellow helmet. Away they go. Jimmy Nielsen makes the gate on the inside. Coming across in white is Hans Nielsen. Picking it up on the inside is Michael Carlson. Nielsen is out front, and the veteran, the professor, the oldest rider here, Peter Collins, has done it once again.
Well, we thought he meant business, and he certainly does. He made a cracking start. It's very, very difficult off gate 3, and he made a beauty from gate 3. That's a very unfancied start position to make it from.
Well, of course, the problem here with the seeded riders, Jimmy Nielsen and Brian Carger, they are the back 2. And I just wonder how track advantage and knowledge of the track so far has told for the front 2, because Hans Nielsen and Michael Carlson are looking much faster than the back 2 of Jimmy Nielsen and Brian Carger.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Nielsen and Brian Carger have both seen the other riders out there bumping about on the track, and they realise there are some bumps out there, and they've got to learn where those bumps are, and that just takes the edge off their sharpness for this first race. And of course, they're back in the last 2 positions.
It means, of course, they'll have to battle again to try and get a first or second place in their next race, but these 2 will march on. Hans Nielsen in white. In second place is Michael Carlson, and Hans Nielsen is once again showing the class that we know he has to finish ahead of Michael Carlson in second place. Jimmy Nielsen third in red. Brian Carger in blue in fourth place. Nielsen and Carger, the 2 seeded riders, will have to battle again. Hans Nielsen, the Wari veteran, will march on, and the 3 times world champion at individual level knows that he could be on course for a famous Grand Prix victory. He's won 5 since 1995.
Yeah, this is the start. There's Hans. You can see that he's on the gate 3 in the white helmet. He's lifted his leg right across the front wheel there of Brian Carger. Comes right across the front of Jimmy Nielsen. Jimmy made a great start from the inside position, but of course he's riding very, very tight. He's learning that track, but Hans knows where everything is. He knows where the bumps are. He knows where the grip is. This is really Hans Nielsen at his best. He's flying in this race, and he is so focused on what he's doing. You see here as he comes out of the last turn, just that little bit of grip, lifts the front wheel ever so slightly as he crosses the finish. Got lots of time, and I'm sure he's glad to get that race out of the way, and another win there for Hans Nielsen.
Well, of course, it means that he marches on now, and Hans Nielsen will automatically go through to heat number 15, where he'll be riding on the inside. But now we move on to heat 12, which sees world champion Tony Rickardsson. But that man, Tony Casper, has been a surprise packet so far. Tony Casper with 25 Grand Prix points. He's in joint 5th position. In the white helmet colours there is our British hope, Chris Louis. We wish him well, of course, against the 2 seeded riders in this. In white there, Chris Louis with the number 5 on his bike. That's the position he came, of course, in last year's Grand Prix, 5th in the series. He moves out. He'll be getting gate 3 here. Already there on the outside is our other British hope, Joe Screen. He's wearing the yellow and black helmet colours. Will go from the outside. Tony Rickardsson, the world champion, will go from the inside. Peter, how important are gate positions, do you think, in this one?
Well, they're very important, but just wondering about Tony Rickardsson in this one. Just wondering how quick he's going to weigh this track up, because it is difficult to ride. It's awkward. There are bumps here, there and everywhere, and he's got to weigh it up straight away. And of course, Chris Louis and Joe Screen have already been out there, and they've got the faster starts from the outside, a better run around the first turn. So this is going to be a real test for the current world champion, Tony Rickardsson.
Well, certainly in the last heat, in heat 11, the total eclipse, almost total eclipse of Jimmy Nielsen and Brian Carger does show that this track here tonight, well, the early knowledge of it certainly had an advantage, and I just wonder whether it was knowledge of the track or perhaps getting the gearing right and knowing about it, Peter. But problems here for Tony Casper.
Yeah, Tony seems to have a problem with his forks here. The band, the rubber bands, you can see them. They're being stretched there. Possibly one of the bands has come off there. He seems to be having problems with those.
Well, knowing how strict they're going to be, there's more mechanical help coming out for Tony Casper, but it looks as if he's going to be ready to go, and they're not going to need the spare machine that they had desperately ready there, and they're looking across from the pits towards the start line. 15 seconds is indicated now. On the inside, world champion Tony Rickardsson. Gate 2 for the Czech Republic, Tony Casper. The 2 Brits in gates 3 and 4, Chris Louis and Joe Screen. The agitated starting marshal trying to get Casper up to tapes. Casper perhaps playing for time. Tony Rickardsson must be wondering whether the track is exactly as he thinks it is. Away they go. A level break. Ricardson on the inside. Look at the speed of Chris Louis coming around the outside. He knows where he's going. Coming through in yellow is Joe Screen. Brilliant ride by Joe Screen now to pick it up. At the rear is Tony Casper. Chris Louis is in third place. Ricardson is tracking Joe Screen. But a brilliant ride from Joe Screen, Peter, who didn't really make the gate.
Well, he missed the start completely from the outside, and he decided straight away that he was going to cut right round the inside line, and while the others were sorting themselves out wide, he was there round the line, straight into that first position, and he's now pulling away from Tony Ricardson.
He's steered clear of the congestion with 2 laps gone. The rider from Hull, Sam Ermolenko's teammate, Joe Screen, way out as he stretches it down the back straight. He looks as if he knows the track from inside to out. Every bump, every nook, every cranny as they go to the final lap. In second place, the world champion, Tony Ricardson, is chasing him. Disappointment for Chris Louis. He'll have another go, though, to stay back in third place. But look at Joe Screen. Joe Screen looks back. He finds in his wake the world champion, Tony Ricardson. A great effort by the... Well, what a marvellous effort from Joe Screen in yellow ahead of Tony Ricardson in red. Chris Louis third in white. And I'm sure back in our studio that will be cause for celebration for Sam Ermolenko.
Absolutely.
Sam, we're in here. So what about that from Joe Screen?
That was excellent. I mean, if you took a bit of a page out of Michael Carlson's book on that first turn, you know, you got good guys inside of you. You see him here. All the boys are just going for the turn. Tony's determined to push everybody out of the way. Sees Louis coming on the outside of him. Tony goes straight up. Sorry, buddy, I'm moving you over. And here comes Shaggy right up the inside. Big open door up the inside, and he's gone. Brilliant. I mean, that's perfect thinking. You don't quite see it here, but he's gone. Tony's thinking, oh no, what did I do here? Jeez, great move.
Not bad too from Tony Ricardson though in second place. It was his first ride of the night, Gary.
Yeah, it was. As you say, Screeny's been riding early in the meeting, but like Sam said, Tony's just tried to take Chris out there, and Shaggy's turned back under the lot of them. Got his wheels in line and his head down, and I know he likes his track. He had the track record there for quite a long time, and you know, it's brilliant to see him racing again, back to his sort of best, really.
Okay, thanks very much, Gary and Sam. We'll go back to the commentators now as we look at Lee Adams across the grid. Tony.
While hearing the lads in the studio talking, I'm just looking at what it means, but Tony Ricardson and Hans Nielsen have been direct opposition in Heat 17, and that'll be some clash, but there's considerable interest now in this Heat 13 coming up. And number 15 there belongs to Henrik Gustafsson, so impressive in winning Heat number 9. He wears the white helmet colours, you see him in the background there. Coming up on the inside is Lee Adams, the Australian. Lee Adams riding, we saw him in midweek in the league, riding for Kings Lynn. Not a great night for him then. That man in white there, Henrik Gustafsson, the Swede. We look down at the silencer there. Track conditions, well, variable I think is the word we might say. PC alongside me.
Yeah, I was here about 4 weeks ago. I went with Joe Screen, and they've got a lot of equipment. They actually totally rip the track up as soon as the last meeting's finished. They go down about 6 inches and they leave it all week before the following weekend, and then they get the big trucks out and they pack it down very, very hard. They were criticised 2 or 3 years ago for not having enough equipment. Well, I went and had a look, and they've got lots of gear now, and they've also spent about $65,000 putting a brand new safety fence up as well, so they have spent some money.
Well, twice I've been among very heavy water here. I remember Gary Havelock's world title aspirations were nearly flooded out here back in 1992, and a couple of years back in the Grand Prix again. Floods prevailed here in Wroclaw, but it's been a sunny day, a hot day. The Speedway is equally hot now, and we're just about to witness heat number 13. The rider turning away there is Ron Sullivan, who's had something of an up and down night. The Australian goes from the outside. Fellow Australian Lee Adams there goes from the inside. 2 Swedes and the meet in the sandwich. Stefan Dano and Henrik Gustafsson. Dano from gate 2. Gustafsson in white goes from gate 3, and Ron Sullivan goes from the outside. As for an international, almost Australia against Sweden. Here in Poland, in the Olympic Stadium in Wroclaw, starting marshal moves away. The eyes look down. Up go the tapes on the inside in red. Lee Adams coming across well to pick it up in white is Henrik Gustafsson, who's looked impressive tonight. Moving through with a purpose, Ron Sullivan into second place. Lee Adams back in third. At the rear it's Stefan Dano, not at the races, but going well out front and wide now is Henrik Gustafsson. With him inside him is Ron Sullivan. And look at this man, Henrik Gustafsson, so often flattering to deceive. Could this be his night here in the Olympic Stadium in Wroclaw? Henrik is looking good, PC.
Yeah, Henrik Gustafsson doesn't always shine so much in the Grand Prix. I mean, he's a brilliant rider, but he doesn't always do so well. And he's flying in this one. He's looked very, very sharp all night. And of course, Ryan Sullivan, who's right behind him, is riding extremely well also.
Ryan Sullivan looking good, taking the bumps there we see. Gustafsson somehow managed to iron them out. Lee Adams, one of the seeded riders at the back, the two seeded riders again at the back in this one. And one must pose the question about knowledge of the track. I'm sure the boys back in the studio at home will be wondering about that once again in this one. But Henrik Gustafsson, who's been out there before in white, is going to take the checkered flag here, as is Ryan Sullivan in second place in yellow. Lee Adams through there in red in third place. Stefan Dano in fourth. The seeded riders will have to battle again. Those who've been out of the track already have shown that knowledge is a useful thing here tonight in Wroclaw, with Gustafsson winning it ahead of Ryan Sullivan. Lee Adams and Stefan Dano will have to race again. It was level breaking, of course, from the tapes, but when they sorted it out, well, Henrik Gustafsson picked the right line and showed all the way he was the winner.
Here's the start. That's Henrik Gustafsson in the white. What a start he makes. He's already a yard clear as he gets to the first turn, and that's Ryan Sullivan on the outside of him, but straight away he knows he's there. He moves a little bit wide, he stops Sullivan's run around the outside, and from then on Henke was going to ride the outside run, which he did for the whole race, with Ryan Sullivan just tucking in behind him. But again, the two lads, they've just come out, the seeded riders, Lee Adams and Stefan Dano, really getting the wrong end of the stick here. They're both struggling, but there we can see Gustafsson as he enters the bottom turn. They're both riding just inside that bad bump that's on the outside. They know it's there. Of course, the other riders will have seen what's been going on, and they'll be a little bit cautious of that, but there is that bump again. Ryan Sullivan's bike's jumping around, but he knows it's there, he knows what to do, and of course Henrik Gustafsson goes round for that win, with Ryan Sullivan tucked in second place.
Well, the action, of course, continues to be impressive. We must pose the question about the riders moving out and whether the system really is being fair on the seeded riders, those that have done best. But this is the moment that 35,000 fans here in the Olympic Stadium are waiting for. The man we saw on your screen just a few seconds ago was Thomas Gollub, the highest paid sportsman in Poland. This is Peter Karlsson from Sweden. In the white helmet colours, another Pole, Rafael de Brucki. His victory in Heat 10 has seen him through to here. And on the outside there, Jason Crump, the Australian, in the yellow helmet colours. This is going to be quite a battle. We know what happens in Britain when Crump and Gollub come up against each other. But all eyes in this stadium are going to be on Thomas Gollub, who won the first Grand Prix here back in 1995. The year that the Grand Prix started, remember, the placings in that were guaranteed by the performances in the World Final and Boyens in 1984. And there are the flags, there are the cheers. They're putting their shirts on now, but there's no doubt about the rider that they'll be supporting in this one. He's right on your screen. It's Thomas Gollub. I wonder, Peter, is he the best rider in the world at the moment?
Well, I think so. I mean, everyone's been waiting for him. He's the one. There were 7 million people watching him in Poland 2 weeks ago from the league match that Sky did at Ipswich, and he really is on form. I mean, he's winning meetings everywhere, and he just looks so fast. And I mean, he's so brave when he's out on that bike, Tony.
And he's on the inside there in the red helmet colours. Peter Karlsson goes from gate 2 from Sweden. Rafael de Brucki, the fellow Pole, goes from gate 3, and on the outside it's Jason Crump. Remember, the first two march on. The last two in this one, well, they'll have to battle again in hits 15 and 16. And the outside gate from where Jason Crump is now going at the moment, favourite. The inside gate where Thomas Gollub is second favourite. Very few victories from gate 2. But now this is heat 14, and away they go on the inside. Thomas Gollub is fast. Crump goes round the outside. Coming through on the inside in blue is Peter Karlsson. But look at Gollub stretching that lead. And look at Crump in the yellow helmet colour in his wake. We have a race on, but Gollub is going wide. Gollub has studied the racing line. Gollub is fast and furious, and I don't think they get anywhere near him from here.
Oh, Gollub just doesn't need any practice of this track at all. He's going like an express train. He's full gas over those bumps. The bike's doing exactly what he wants it to do. He is so much quicker than everybody else, and like I say, for me, I think he's the best rider in the world right now. And are we looking at this year's world champion?
It's unbelievable. Thomas Gollub, the Grand Prix leader, leads this race by the proverbial street. The fans will erupt at the end of it. In second place is Jason Crump, the Australian of whom we think so much, who does so well. He's been put under pressure by another Pole, Raphael Dabrowski, but look at Thomas Gollub out front. There is no doubt the flag's already starting to wave. The cheers will go to a crescendo because Thomas Gollub's familiar wheelie sees him take the checkered flag ahead of Jason Crump in second place. Raphael Dabrowski is in third, but Thomas Gollub was something pretty special there, and his very own fans, 35,000 in this stadium, must be wondering if they have seen the next world champion take the honours in Heat 14. He was fast, he was furious, he was uncatchable, and Jason Crump did well simply to finish in his wake. For the other two, well, they'll be wondering what they have to do to stay in this. A different class, I think, is probably the word, PC.
Oh, that's exactly what this crowd wanted to see. There he is in the red helmet. Look at him, he's just accelerating ahead of the others like they're not even there. Jason Crump on the outside's got no answer to him. Thomas gets to the turn. If you notice, when he goes in that turn, he doesn't just throw it sideways and let the back wheel break away. He races it into the corner. He goes in with his weight on the back wheel, so the back wheel is pushing him into that corner to get maximum speed that bike will give him. And all the back tyres doing all the work as he rushes into the turn. And by this point now, he's just totally in command of the race. He's riding those bumps as though there's nothing there, straight over those bumps. Oh, what a ride, absolutely brilliant.
Well, Thomas Gollub, absolutely brilliant, leader of the Grand Prix in his home country. He is something pretty special, and we're going to see he and much more in true competition here in the Olympic Stadium in Wroclaw after the break.
The Super League action on Sky Sports continues this weekend.
Sensational try!
As two more teams go into battle. Warrington v Wigan, Sunday at 7:30 live on Sky Sports 1.
You have 30 seconds to answer the following questions. How many numbers between 0 and 60 begin or end with 3? How many triangles are there? Which is the odd one out in this list? 16-valve performance, ABS, alloy wheels, air conditioning, indoor swimming pool, electric sunroof, CD player, £15,590. Test drive your IQ now. The Renault Laguna.
Hi, Billy. Mummy! Look, I can't talk long because I'm on the mobile. Hi, Billy. Mummy! I think it's time for your bedtime story, don't you?
One rate from BT Cellnet is the only flat rate tariff in Europe. The cost of your calls doesn't change from country to country, so you always know what you're paying. You never know, it might change your life. One rate from BT Cellnet. Good call.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love.
If I had just caught that train.
Sliding Doors, tonight on Sky Box Office.
Round three's racing is coming from Poland, the Wroclaw Stadium. And you're live and exclusive here on Sky Sports for the Speedway Grand Prix of Poland. The action's coming from Poland, but we're here in London with Sam Malenko and Gary Havelock still. Now, I've got to ask both you gentlemen straight away. Thomas Gollub, first ride out tonight. Can anybody stop him at all?
Well, not in that race, that's for sure. But you never know. I mean, some of the guys now, this will be their second ride going in there. Maybe they'll get it dialed in a bit better. But he looked tremendous. I mean, he's on form and he stamped his authority on the track straight away.
Gary, his bike looked quick. He looked absolutely poised, didn't he, for that win?
Yeah, had a real good win there. But as I said before, I think it's all going to be won and lost on the first corners here. And it all depends on the starts and what sort of starts he can make. And there's going to be some hard as it goes on now up towards the finals and the semi-finals. It's going to be some hard first corners, and I think it's going to all come down to that.
Well, as you can see over my shoulder there, people will do anything to get a position over the top of Poland at the moment. The stadium's packed, so they've resorted to hang gliders now to keep an eye on the place. Right, next heat up will be heat 17. We won't lose any of these riders, but sorry, heat 15, and we will lose 2 of these riders. Out will be Jimmy Nielsen, Lee Adams, Tony Casper and Peter Carlson. We're going to lose 2 of these guys, and we can go straight over now to our commentary team of Peter Collins and Tony Miller.
Well, we continue to see how well the seeded riders do or how well they don't. No problem for Thomas Gollub, but there Jimmy Nielsen has to fight to battle again and needs to finish in the first 2 in this one to stay in the event. The man in white there is Tony Casper, who had machinery problems first time out and finished last in heat number 12. There you see the heat times of the fastest man tonight, and basically Rafael Dabrowski, but Thomas Gollub way down the list in 4th. But here at heat 15, on the inside is Jimmy Nielsen from Sweden. Lee Adams from Australia goes from gate 2 in blue. From the Czech Republic is Tony Casper in white from gate 3. And on the outside, Peter Carlson from Sweden in yellow and black. That's the lineup. Remember, the 3rd and 4th riders tumble out of the Grand Prix. They have 15 seconds now with that sign displayed in front of them. And the starting marshal getting a shade impatient there, particularly with Peter Carlson. But seems we're now ready. Crowd expecting much. Oh, and that looks as if Lee Adams will tumble out of the Grand Prix with a tape exclusion, and yet again, we had no problem with getting up to the tapes in time, but yet another big name goes out of the Grand Prix in sad circumstances, Peter.
Again, it was Jimmy Nielsen on the inside that moved first, and Lee Adams was looking across, as some of the boys had said earlier. Gary said, when he looked across there was a movement, and of course, Lee Adams rode into that tape, and he's the one that's going to be excluded. They're so on edge when when they sat there at the tapes, you know, and as soon as somebody moves, he just went, and he's back to the pits.
Well, there is Tony Casper going back on his way. I don't think there'll be any question of Lee Adams talking to the referee. I think, well, it was a fact of life, as they say, and the Australian tumbles out, and there in the white helmet colours, Casper coming up to tapes. That is Jimmy Nielsen having some attention to his machinery. The remaining rider left in is Peter Carlson in the background. And, well, rider number 13, Lee Adams, desperately disappointed. And, well, we can see it here, Peter.
Yeah, the rider in red there moves first. You can see him, Jimmy Nielsen, move first, but of course, Lee Adams was looking across, and he rode straight into the tapes, Lee Adams. But of course, he was put off there by Jimmy Nielsen, but Lee Adams is the one that will carry the can.
Well, it's exactly what happened before, and I think we can see it again here. The man on the inside in red is Jimmy Nielsen. The man excluded in blue, Lee Adams. Was it really his fault? Well, the tapes tell the story, Peter. He certainly broke them, but he was conned, I think.
He was conned, all right, and it's very unfortunate, and he's back to the pits.
And we start without him in blue. On the inside, Nielsen, Casper gate 3, Carlson on the outside. Just 1 to go as up go the tapes and away they go. And on the inside, Nielsen comes wide, picks it up, takes the others wide, takes Carlson either wider, and there goes Jimmy Nielsen, the Swede. They won't catch him from here. The battle is joined in second place with 1 remaining qualifying space. Tony Casper in the white helmet colours is there. He's going wide for the Czech Republic. Now back in 3rd is Peter Carlson from Sweden, but Jimmy Nielsen, once he picked that up, he knows exactly where he's going, and down the back straight is stretching it further and further in front, rather akin to Thomas Gollub, Peter.
Yeah, Jimmy's riding very tactically. We could see he made a great first corner, but again, tucked in behind is Tony Casper. Tony is a real top rider on these continental circuits, and we've shown us so many times what a force he is, and he's there tucked in behind Jimmy Nielsen.
But yet another Grand Prix. Tony Casper's going to be among the points. He started in joint 6th place tonight. He's going to continue his role here as he marches on, unless that man at the back, Peter Carlson, could catch him. Carlson is trying. It's going to be desperately close for that remaining place, but Jimmy Nielsen out front. Look at this here in second place. The fight is on. Can Casper hold it? Look at this on the line. Casper holds it, but only just. But no problems out front for Jimmy Nielsen in red. Tony Casper finishes in second place in white. And sadly for his efforts at the end, Peter Carlson still disappears out of the Grand Prix. But Jimmy Nielsen marches on, and later confrontations are going to see the Swedish ace against the Polish ace, Thomas Gollub. And Jimmy Nielsen looked pretty good there to me, PC.
He did. It was crucial on this start. That's Jimmy in the red helmet. Now, what a great start. The front wheel's barely turning as it lifts, and he goes right across the front there of Tony Casper. Now, he stops Tony Casper in his tracks. Now, he runs into the side of Peter Carlson's leg. Peter lifts his leg to to move that out of the way of Jimmy's bike, but of course now Peter's far too wide. He's getting showered with shale, and round the inside Tony Casper's made a great run to dive into that second place position, that qualifying position, but Jimmy is just sat there as he goes down the back straight. He's not involved in anything that's going on behind him, and that was a brilliant ride from him.
Well, we've seen Jimmy Nielsen go well. We know now that Tony Casper is safely through to heat number 20, and once more he has to finish in the top 2 to gain a place in the semi-finals. But now we're going to move on to heat number 16, and this is where, well, 2 tumble out, and we hope it won't be the man in the red helmet colours, because that is our British hope, Chris Louis. He goes from the inside gate in red. Going back to tape cell, back to pits is Brian Carger. That man in yellow is Stefan Dano. But there is Chris Louis with the number 5. Problems there for Brian Carger as the clock on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen counts down. The Danish rider Brian Carger there will have to get this problem sorted out, and there's only just over a minute, as you see, in which to do it. And this is the sort of times which become very, very nervous indeed, Peter, for the riders.
That's right, Brian was having his clutch adjusted there by his mechanic, probably not sharp enough. You need a very strong clutch on such a big track, and they were screwing the springs in there to make the clutch much sharper.
Well, there the rider in blue, that's Rafael Dabrowski. He's provided a few good moments here, but he finished 3rd in heat 14, and he comes back to try and earn a top 2 place in this one to stay in the event, because that's the format. Remember, if you come 2nd or 3rd or 4th twice in a row, then you tumble out. But Chris Louis, from his 3rd place in heat 12, is at the inside gate here with that clock counting down. I'm sure we'll see that lady with the 15 seconds wandering across in a moment as the starting marshal tries to get them up to tapes. He looks round. There is the 15 seconds. On the outside in yellow is Stefan Dano, the Swede. Brian Carger, the Dane, goes from gate 3. Rafael Dabrowski, the Pole, goes from gate 2, and on the inside, our hope from Britain, the British captain, the Ipswich captain, Chris Louis. I wonder if he can do it from the inside, Peter.
Well, you know, Chris, he rides the inside very, very well, and if he makes half a decent start, he will ride right round that line on the first turn. I really hope he does well.
Starting marshal moves away. Plenty of space left for Chris Louis as the rider in gate 2. Dabrowski goes wide. Louis picks it up. Louis makes the gate. Louis goes through on that white line, but round the outside goes Dabrowski. Through the inside goes Stefan Dano, and past him as well goes Brian Carger. And now, inexplicably, Louis is at the back. It all went wrong because he made the gate well. And now a fight is on for the Brit to stay in this. And PC out front. Dabrowski is going well, but what on earth happened to Louis?
Yeah, Chris is going to find it quite difficult, because he's trying to keep that back wheel on the ground. The track's very bumpy, his back wheel's jumping around all over the place, and he can't see what's coming when he's having to follow the wake of the other 2 riders. But just look at Dabrowski. I really rate this rider. He is so good. I saw him 2 or 3 years ago in Poland. He is so fast and such a lot of ability, and I think he's the next Thomas Gollub.
Well, he's riding tonight as a wild card, of course, and he's going well. Rafael Dabrowski has time to look back exactly as did Thomas Gollub. In 2nd place, he sees Stefan Dano in yellow. In 3rd place in white is Brian Carger, who will probably be tumbling out, along with a desperately disappointed Chris Louis. But no doubt about the quality of the race leader, going wider and wider, faster and faster. In blue, in 2nd place in yellow, there is Stefan Dano. And 3rd in white is Brian Carger. Sadly at the rear in red is Chris Louis. A Brit tumbles out, but the Polish cheers are for this man, Rafael Dabrowski, who, well, the flags are waving, the shirts are off, and, well, his triumph undoubtedly is pleasing this big crowd here in the Olympic Stadium. And he didn't do it all from the tapes, Peter. There was a battle there, but once he picked it up down that back straight, well, it was never looked back, was it?
No, Chris Louis missed out there by probably about a foot as he got to that first turn. He was a foot behind on that inside, but there, wide, is Stefan Dano. He makes a great start, but here into the picture on the red helmet is Chris Louis. Comes into that first corner, but Dabrowski's pulled across the front of Chris and stopped him. Chris has had to shut the throttle off as he entered the turn, and he's lost that speed going in. So, of course, coming out of the turn, he's not quite fast enough, and that allows the other 2 guys to come straight past him. But already, Dabrowski staked his claim on this race, racing down the back straight. He hits that bump just as he enters that pit turn. His back wheel is bouncing and shuddering, but he's in full control. And poor Chris Louis, he's also on the way home.
Well, Louis on the way home with just 5 Grand Prix points for coming 4th in Heat 16. And that means that Chris Louis moves on to a disappointing 19 now from 3 Grand Prix. And it's looking very much as if he's going to have to go through at best the Grand Prix Challenge to stay in the competition next year. And that's desperately disappointing for a man who's been high in the Grand Prix series in the last few years and finished 5th last year. But now we move on to heat number 17, and there in white is the world champion. On the inside in red, and many times world champion Hans Nielsen. This is going to be quite a battle. In gate 2 in blue there is Henrik Gustafsson from Sweden. Tony Rickardsson, his fellow Sweden current world champion, there in white, goes from gate 3. And on the outside in yellow and black is Jason Crump. We have some star quality in this one.
Well, Hans Nielsen has been red hot tonight. Whether he can keep that up, we just don't know. But this is going to be a very, very difficult race. Henke Gustafsson's having a great night, and of course Tony Rickardsson and Jason Crump, well, that goes without saying.
Hans Nielsen on the inside, Gustafsson in blue from gate 2, Tony Rickardsson in white from gate 3, and Jason Crump, the Aussie, goes from the outside in yellow. This promises to be a world-class race in more ways than one. A Dane, 2 Swedes and an Australian across the tapes from the inside. Nielsen, Gustafsson, Rickardsson and Crump. And remember now the inside gate, perhaps picking up the majority of heat victories. That effort from Jimmy Nielsen helping in gate 1, but gate 4 rivaling in gate 2 the worst so far. Starting marshal moves away. Tony Steele, the referee, lets up the tapes. Hans Nielsen kicks it down on the inside, takes the others wide, and the first major pile-up of the night. The only survivor is Hans Nielsen. I have to say, much of that looked to me as if it happened because he went unduly wide. All 3 riders slid into each other. Peter, how did you see it?
Well, we can see this on the start. Hans Nielsen's on the inside in the red. Hans doesn't quite make it there, but Henke Gustafsson is stuck in the crowd here. Now Henke gets a bit of a bang there from Hans's back wheel, and down he goes. That takes down Tony Rickardsson, and of course Jason Crump was just on the outside, just about to turn back, and his front wheel was taken away from him as well. We could just see this again from a different angle there. Gustafsson goes down, and they just go down like a pack of cards, and Hans Nielsen was, I would say, to blame there, bringing them all down.
Peter, have you ever played dominoes in the pub? You knock one over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the whole row goes, and that's exactly what seemed to happen there. We're awaiting the decision of our referee, Tony Steele, but there certainly are problems here, and I don't think anybody is too comfortable. But there is Hans Nielsen walking back to pits, looking pretty proud. The phones are ringing, and we'll have to see just how our referee, Tony Steele, sorts this one out.
I would think that the referee is going to put all 4 riders back, but Hans really went for the racing line and took everybody with him. And like you say, they went down like a pack of dominoes. And Tony Rickardsson seems to be against that fence. I know he took a very, very bad knock on the back of the head, and he's probably quite dazed at the moment. But that's that new safety fence I was talking about earlier, and it seems as though it's quite hard from the way that Tony Rickardsson caught that fence.
While Hans Nielsen goes back to pits on his own, but he is not excluded, nobody's excluded. Our referee, Tony Steele, has put all 4 back in. First Ben bunching, and I wonder what the lads back in the studio think of all of that. It was a pack of dominoes.
Well, Tony Rickardsson certainly looks like he got the worst one of that stick, banging his head really heavily on the board there. That might be a new safety fence, but it don't look very safe to me, Sam.
Well, I don't think safety is really the word. I think it's a hard fence, and basically it might look better because it's white and it's not a chain link type fence, but the old fence had a really hard bottom, but now it's all the way to the top.
Well, let's move on a bit here very quickly with this as we're getting a look down at Rickardsson. He looks a bit pale there for sure, but at least he's okay. Talk us through this, Sam.
Well, I mean, first of all, Tony tried to anticipate in the start, right at the beginning, jumped, and when he jumped, the tapes didn't go, so he backed off, so that put him in a very vulnerable position. He wasn't quite out of the start. You can see Tony's like just behind Henke. Henke's got a good drive. Henke's really won that start, but Hans is in control of the race being on the inside, and Tony's just desperately trying to get over Henke, and the guy on the outside sees it all happening, and that's it. Hans pushes them up, and there's no room to go. It's been the racing line throughout the whole time, but at the same time, there's always been one guy in front and the second guy there.
Well, we can see there, that is the man that clouded the fence big time with the back of his head. So Tony Rickardsson, the current world champion, walks across. We haven't yet heard whether they're all going to be back out there for the start of that race. Gary, in fact, we have heard that they all are back in. Good decision there, Gary.
I don't really agree so much, you know. I think, obviously, there is a rule of first Ben bunching where you can put all 4 back, but
You see what Hans does here, he's not really in front and he's just gone totally straight.
So in your view...
With one intention in mind, to take everybody out.
So in your view, Hans was at fault in that circumstance?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, see, in Hans's eyes, he's probably thinking he's got a good race going with Henke, because he doesn't see the other side of Henke, because Tony's just behind Henke. So in Hans's eyes, he's actually racing Henke out, and there was room for one rider, but not the second and the third rider outside of Henke.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you've not watched Speedway before and that's your first introduction to it, you certainly think these guys are fairly hard fellas, because Tony Rickardson there took many of us have banged our heads with helmets on before, despite the fact they got safety helmets on, to take a clout on the back of the head like that. Yeah, it's not good. Sort of 50 mile an hour into the fence.
Tony's a pretty hard guy, and I've seen him have some real big get-offs, and he gets back on.
You can just see there. I mean, Hans had to do what he had to do, but it was a bit hard. He went straight out. Yeah.
You know, when you get to the corner, if he was in front, fair enough. You can go for whichever bit of the racetrack you want. But when he actually got to the corner, he was slightly behind Henke.
Yeah, kind of moved him over.
And he just totally went straight with one intention.
I think we may well see a doctor shining a light into Tony Rickardson's eyes and just checking out that he didn't pick up some concussion there, because it takes a lesser bang on the head than that to cause a little bit of concussion. So there's Ollie Olsen walking across. So the doctors escort Tony Rickardson, the world champion, off of the track. No doubt when he's feeling a little bit more like it, he'll look at that tape and go and thank Hans Nielsen for that particular manoeuvre. But here in the studio we have a bit of a slightly mixed view, and the guys on the outside couldn't really see what was going, or rather Hans Nielsen on the inside couldn't really see what was going on the outside, went for the line and took them all out. And Tony Rickardson was the man that certainly, there he is. I tell you, he looks 2 days for me to start this next race, the rerun. I would suggest that...
well, you know,
I'll put my money on him.
I tell you what, because he's in Poland right now, the doctor could probably control this. They might be telling him you can't go, and whether he's right or wrong, only Tony really knows how he feels. He could probably be challenged by the doctors that maybe he's not capable of riding in the race, and yet he feels he is.
Well, the correct manoeuvre here with a head injury of any kind, it has to be left into the hands of the doctors, that's for sure, because I don't believe that any rider knows the right thing to be doing in the circumstances, full of adrenaline and ready to go for it.
I'll put my money on he goes out for the rerun.
Okay, Sam, you up for that?
I would definitely insist on it if I was in his shoes, but...
That looks to me like Ollie Olsen to the right of the picture there with the green hat on, having a fight there with the doctor, metaphorically speaking, of course. And it certainly looks to me like the doctor has got control of this.
He's definitely trying, yeah.
The doctor looks to me to have control of this situation, and it is possible that Tony Rickardson is not going to make it out there, despite protestations from both organisers and the rider himself. So we are looking at live pictures from Poland. Wroclaw is thrown into confusion at the moment as we wait for these guys to get back out. This is heat 17. The first start had a first corner big crash with Tony Rickardson banging the back of his head to the safety fence. And we look down on the track now. The sun has gone down on Poland, but the racing is becoming hotter and hotter and hotter. Gary, should the doctors... I've said that they should have control. That's my personal view from a road racer's point of view. What about you as far as this is concerned?
Obviously, you know, you can't go out there if you're concussed or you're dazed or anything, but Tony there, you know, he obviously had a bad one, but he was walking around and he seemed to know what he was doing, and I think they're going to have a hard job to actually, if they say he can't ride, to actually stop him getting on his bike and riding out on the track, because I know he's such a fierce competitor.
Let's take another look at it again. I mean, hold your breath, folks at home, because this is a fairly horrendous crash. For the man in white, third in your picture at the moment, Nielsen sits up underneath them, takes the race in line, down goes Henke, down goes the man in white. His helmet cover comes off when he hits the fence just there and takes a massive smash to the back of the helmet.
One of the things, though, Keith, you got to look at is he doesn't drop. He doesn't lose consciousness, you know. I mean, these helmets are pretty good helmets these days. I mean, they're made to take the impact. I'm not saying that he's not right, but see, he's okay. He's thinking, wow, okay, hit my head, all right, but is he unconscious? Is he, you know, he had a bag praying and hit his head, but like I say, as a racer, you know, this is pretty important.
It is pretty important, I agree with you there, Sam, but the doctors will make some decisions soon. Phil Rising is at trackside for us here at Sky Sports. I wonder if Phil's got any news from the pit lane.
I'm standing right outside the doctor's room, Tony. They've taken Rickardson in there. They insisted that they examine him before they would let him go and ride. We've now got the Swedish team manager, Max Olsen, and the race director, Ollie Olsen, going into the doctor's room to see Rickardson. Olsen has said that he will wait as long as the doctors give Rickardson the okay, but the Polish doctors will not let him ride until they examine him. We're just going to poke my head in the door now. Yes, Ollie, is he going to ride? He says he wants to ride. I'm going to give him a chance, but he's 30 seconds now. He's got 30 seconds now. Olsen said Rickardson wants to ride. The doctors are still not happy, but he's got 30 seconds to come out from now.
Thank you very much, Philip Rising from trackside. Well, there he is. Tony Rickardson comes out of the doctor's position. He certainly doesn't look like he's staggering now. So Tony Rickardson and Ollie Olsen got control of that. Sounds like the doctors would need a doctor if they'd excluded this man. So Rickardson gets the ride, as you two definitely said here in the studio. And he looks to be, well, got his breath back. Perhaps focusing a little better.
Yeah, I mean, right now he's just probably totally relying on his team to get everything ready. Hopefully the bike's not damaged too much, and you know, he can just, all he's got to do now is concentrate on just cooling himself down a bit, getting his kit ready as they're doing now, and just maybe make a better start now. And sometimes this does settle you down a bit. He was a little bit eager at that start. He tried jumping it, and he paid the penalty.
There goes the 2-minute signal, I think we'll find that is, for this heat. So heat 17 will be going in a minute. We heard that was the buzzer for 2 minutes. So they're under 2 minutes now to make it to the tapes. So Tony Rickardson does not have a lot of time to get himself kitted back up on the bike, started and down onto the shale. Well, Gary, how happy would he be if he didn't make the time, do you reckon?
He'd be devastated. I mean, I think I remember this happening a couple of years ago at the Grand Prix, the same track, but on the other bend. Tony came into the corner, hit a big hole and ended up going into the fence back first. I think he picked himself up and won the rerun at that time. So
well, we've seen Rickardson in a couple of fairly major crashes. I seem to remember back to a British Grand Prix a couple of years ago where he hit the fence fairly hard, so he's obviously a tough old Swede.
No doubt about it.
Well, he's going to make the 2 minutes as well. Bike is ready, mechanics have done a good job.
I think it's a new bike.
Straight in there.
Yeah, it looks
they'll
like
almost be wrecked. You can see the front tyres clean.
Yeah. All present and correct then. Tony Rickardson will make the restart. So back on in red will be Hans Nielsen. He's the only one that came out of that without any injury whatsoever. Henke Gustafsson will be in blue, Rickardson in white and Jason Crump in yellow. And we can go back now to our boys in the commentary box, Peter Collins and Tony Millard.
Well, I can tell you that Sky viewers back home heard a lot more than the fans here in the stadium, because our man Phil Rising was right in the dressing room door and bringing us the bulletin firsthand. And Tony Rickardson fit to ride according to him. I think the doctors were far from happy, but I think that Ollie Olsen was pretty firm that he wanted his world champion out there. And Peter Collins, I know alongside me, believes the whole thing was the fault of Hans Nielsen.
Well, I think it was, and Hans is quite capable of doing the same thing again, because he is very, very tough on the first corner and he is so focused tonight. But Tony definitely wanted to ride, there's no doubt about that.
Well, he's got to ride again. Hans Nielsen on the inside, Henrik Gustafsson from gate 2. A battered Tony Rickardson goes through gate 3. Jason Crump was battered as well from gate 4. But Nielsen on the inside, and this first bend is going to be mighty interesting in the rerun of heat 17 as the starting marshal moves away, and up they go. Again, Hans Nielsen comes wide. This time Rickardson hangs back and picks it up to go on the inside. In blue, Gustafsson goes down the outside. They're tangling with Hans Nielsen again. This is tough. This is furious. This is Speedway. Coming through the inside now is Jason Crump. Rickardson at the back. Nielsen squeezed out. Crump in front. Gustafsson going wide. Hans Nielsen battling again. This is the best race of the night by far. But out front now, well, it's looking good for the race leader, but Hans Nielsen has to chase him. Looking back is Jason Crump in yellow. He's picked it up. Hans Nielsen's now in second place. Back in third is Gustafsson. Well, Peter Collins, all's happening here.
You'll go a long way to see a race as good as this one. It's absolutely brilliant. Hans Nielsen there made the start, but of course Jason Crump's riding really fast on that outside line in that dirt. Of course Tony Rickardson certainly not giving up. He's in there pushing and shoving, but now we can see that Jason's pulling away and Hans Nielsen's following.
Tony Rickardson left at the back now. Jason Crump out front ahead of Hans Nielsen. These two go on. Rickardson will have a chance to come again, but a fabulous ride by Jason Crump, because he took one hell of a battering in that first bend crash. But he's through to the next stage. Hans Nielsen will go through with him. The others will have to try again. But what a ride by Jason Crump. The shake of the fist. It tells the story. A shake of the hands with Hans Nielsen. All is fair in love and war and Speedway. But for Jason Crump, that was a race to remember. And he'll remember it for an awful long while. Perhaps as far as his next race.
I would think so. Jason rode a brilliant race in that one, Tony. Hans Nielsen made the start again, went round the inside. We can see it now. There's Hans on the inside. But of course, Henke Gustafsson was right in there. he's made a beauty, right? He's not been fazed by that first incident. And of course, Jason Crump's also right in that dirt, very, very wide. Now at this point, Hans has not got the best line. Gustafsson and Crumpy are riding very wide, but at this point, Crumpy's actually at the back. Now Crumpy cuts back, you can see him in the yellow helmet. He's cutting inside there of Hans Nielsen. Tony Rickardson's made a brave first turn, right round the line, but very difficult to pick actually who was winning at this point. There's lots of pushing going on there with Gustafsson and Hans Nielsen, but they've not been aware of Jason Crump, who's trying the big blast around the outside. Jason's in there, right on the tail of Hans Nielsen. That's Gustafsson in the blue. He's leg trailing in that dirt, but there's Jason Crump taking Hans Nielsen totally by surprise as he goes past the pair of them, including Henke Gustafsson.
Well, it surprised me. I think Tony Rickardsson was shaken up, Peter, and that's why he finished last in that one. But he's got a chance to battle back again, and if this Heat 18 coming up is anything like as fast and furious and as controversial as Heat 17, well, we know we'll have a race on our hands. What's important for us is the rider in red. On the inside is Britain's Joe Screen. That man in blue is the man that this big crowd is cheering for, Thomas Gollub. In white, going from gate 3 from Sweden, is Michael Carlson. On the outside, a man who's been pretty lively tonight, Ron Sullivan. He got here by finishing second in Heat 13, but they'll all be watching Thomas Gollub in gate 2, and Joe Screen is right next to him. In just about 15 seconds time, we'll be battling with him away from those tapes. Remember, the first two go into the semi-finals. The last two have a chance to battle again for a consolation place through to that stage. The starting marshal has them in order. Nerve ends jangling here. Up go the tapes, are flying from the inside. Joe Screen coming past on the outside in yellows. Ron Sullivan going through in blue. That is Thomas Gollub. Gollub back in third at the moment. Joe Screen at the back has work to do. Gollub moves through into second place to the cheers of the crowd. He's out in pursuit of Ron Sullivan, who got a lightning start, and Sullivan is going wide. Sullivan is opening a gap on Gollub, and this is amazing because the Aussie is going fast, but right at the back is Joe Screen, and it looks as if he's going to have to battle again. But what a ride by Ron Sullivan to hold off Thomas Gollub.
He's holding off Thomas Gollub, but we know that Thomas does not like to finish second. He'll be trying everything to pass Ryan Sullivan, even though he's still in a qualifying position in that second place, Tony.
Ron Sullivan is attacking the bumps, but look at Gollub trying to go around the outside. Ron Sullivan will take him wide, or try to, but again Gollub will pick it up. Sullivan in front with a lap to go. Gollub going wide in second place will wait his moment. Back in third place now is Joe Screen in the red helmet colours. In blue there is Gollub though, chasing the race leader, Ron Sullivan. Both will qualify, but look at this. Screen's making an effort in second place, can't quite make it. Screen is back in third. The winner, Ron Sullivan in yellow, Thomas Gollub in blue, and tailed off is Michael Carlson in white. But that was quite a race for Ron Sullivan, the 23-year-old from Adelaide. What a tremendous performance by him. The drums are beating, the racing is fast and furious. Thomas Gollub has been beaten once, but there's plenty more racing to come here, and you can hear it and see it all after the break here from the Olympic Stadium in Wroclaw.
Have you thought about college? My brother said it was wicked, you know.
I think you can do whatever you set your mind on.
It all depends on what you want to do.
So, what are you going to do?
I don't know.
Find out about yourself. Get help with your future. Call 0800 096 1615 for your free copy of the Reach for the Sky magazine and see what you can be.
I want to see the future my way.
Yahoo?
been a naughty boy. An ordinary cleaner, that's all it was. Yeah, sure, it might have killed bacteria, but bacteria could come back, even from this. Now look what I use instead. New Flash antibacterial. Unlike ordinary cleaners, it works against bacteria for up to 12 hours. So you can feel more relaxed. Because who knows what goes on behind your back.
What are you looking at?
Flash antibacterial does the hard work, so you don't have to.
What do the world's greatest snowboarders drink? The same thing as the not-so-great ones.
Girls on the bus kept on laughing at us. Road up 10 down to Venice again. Mafioso story with a twist. A two-wrong fool, Julie Newmar hit. And Mike turned to me and said, I'll explain it on the way.
You join us live and exclusive on Sky Sports with just a minute to go before this man is excluded. Carlson is in big trouble. Heats 19 and 20 are next. 2 men from each heat will go out of this Grand Prix. 56 seconds to go. Sam, it's getting a bit tight here for Mr. Carlson.
He's got to get up there. I mean, I guess they're doing some last-minute preparations there. That's they're just getting him off now, so he'll make it no problem.
OK, then, just an opportune moment then to cross across to our commentators. Tony Millard, it was close for Carlson.
The sun may be going down, but the action is still mighty hot, as you've heard before here. And we're here live in the Olympic Stadium in Wroclaw for heat number 19. The first 2 march on to the semi-finals. The last 2 in this heat tumble out of the Grand Prix. There are 15 seconds to go, and they're all Swedish in this one. Jimmy Nilsson on the inside, Stefan Dano from gate 2, Henrik Gustafsson gate 3, and Michael Carlson gate 4. And we certainly have a chance of at least 2 Swedes through to the semi-final. Away they go, nearly a tape touching there, but on the inside Jimmy Nilsson takes it wide, and he's done, because coming through on the inside in blue is Stefan Dano to pick it up. Nilsson comes back, he takes him on the inside to battle for second and first place. Back in third place there in the yellow helmet colours is Michael Carlson. Tailed off at the rear is Henrik Gustafsson, but from the start, Peter, all over the place there to sort out the placings.
Yeah, Stefan Dano's going away in this one, but Jimmy Nilsson's certainly in the thick of things there. But of course, there he's riding in that second place, that qualifying position, and the 2 behind will go out if it stays like this.
Well, they won't mind up front, because it means 2 through for Sweden. It'll be Stefan Dano and Jimmy Nilsson if it stays like this. And disappointment for Henrik Gustafsson and Michael Carlson. Gustafsson now right at the back. Carlson not far in front of him. This man, Jimmy Nilsson, in your picture in red, he's there in second place. But out there in front is Stefan Dano, the former Eastbourne rider. Is going fast. He's looking impressive. He's taken to the track. He struggled to start with. He got here from second place in heat 16. But now, undoubtedly, he's going to be the winner of heat 19. That takes him through into the semi-finals along with Jimmy Nilsson, and that will help his position, because he came into this in second place in the Grand Prix. Stefan Dano came into it in 9th tonight with 22 points, but a heat victory there takes him into the semi-finals. Michael Carlson and Henrik Gustafsson tumble out. But for Jimmy Nilsson and Stefan Dano, the heat victory for Stefan Dano will be sweet. The semi-final place even sweeter. Peter, he looked impressive.
Yeah, Stefan really got away on that first turn. We can see the start. That's Jimmy Nilsson in the red. Now Jimmy makes a perfect start from the inside. Now as he rushes to the corner, he's got the whole track to go at, but he runs very wide. He takes Henke Gustafsson right out to the fence. He hangs him out to dry right there by the kickboard. Then he comes back towards the inside, but basically Stefan Dano has done the big dive right up the inside to take that first position. Now there, Gustafsson's race is just about over because he's going home after this one. But there in the lead, in the blue helmet, is Stefan Dano. Now Stefan looks very, very fast when he gets out on his own in front. He's not seen much daylight at all this evening, but tonight here, he's made a perfect race in that one, and he's just pulled away from Jimmy Nilsson. But that was Jimmy also going through to the semi-finals.
Well, certainly disappointment indeed for Henrik Gustafsson, because he only gets 7 Grand Prix points from that one, and that really, he looked so good early on tonight, and that doubles his total to 14. He was in 20th place coming into tonight's meeting, and Michael Carlson, who also tumbles out in 3rd place in that heat 19, he gets 8 Grand Prix points for him, and from his point of view, well, could have been better, I suppose. He moves on to 20. He was in 14th coming into tonight. But now we move on now to heat number 20. An exact replica, I suppose you could call it here, because the first 2 go through to the semi-finals. The last 2 go out. Already we have 6 riders ashort of semi-final places. Jason Crump, Stefan Dano, Thomas Gollub, Ron Sullivan, Hans Nielsen and Jimmy Nilsson. 2 more will join them from this heat number 20. That man in blue with problems is Tony Casper. Rode for Eastbourne earlier on this season, just 1 match. He is an Eastbourne asset over in the British Elite League, but here tonight, well, he's looking for Grand Prix glory. That man in the yellow and black helmet colours, the world champion, shaken up in his last outing, trailed in last in the rerun of heat 17. But now Tony Rickardsson with, well, 28-year-old from Sweden is looking to add to his honours, but he goes from the outside to be tough. Rafael Dobruski from Poland goes from the inside. The Czech Republic, Tony Kasper, goes from gate 2. And Britain's remaining hope, Joe Screen, is from gate 3. We wish Joe luck, and I'm sure the man alongside me, partly his mentor Peter Collins, will want him to win this.
I've got my Union Jack out here, Tony.
Yes, I can see it on your seat, Peter. Peter Collins with his Union Jack. And there in yellow and black is Tony Rickardsson, the world champion. He won't want the Union Jack, but through on the inside goes Rafael Dobruski. Back at the rear is Tony Kasper. Joe Screen moves into 2nd place. He's going well. If Joe Screen can hold this, he's ashort of a semi-final place. He's going to be under threat behind him, but out front in yellow is Tony Rickardsson. Back in 3rd place now, Rafael Dobruski. But what an effort by Joe Screen. He's shadowing the world champion. He's in the hunt here, Joe Screen. Oh, he's even trying to take him on out front instead of playing safe and sure for a semi-final place, and he could be threatened at the back by Dobruski, but look at this effort from Joe Screen.
Yeah, we all know that Joe's world class, and of course he's having a big go on this one. We haven't seen the best of Joe at all, but this is certainly the thing that's happening tonight. Joe's absolutely flying, his bike's working perfectly, and if he can just stay ahead of Rafael Dobruski, he will march on into the semis.
Dobruski all over the track behind him. There's a chance he'll pick up the right line, but out front and looking good now is Tony Rickardsson. Rickardsson has recovered from that nasty bang. He's now ashort surely of a semi-final place, but Joe Screen will go there with him. What a ride by Rickardsson, but what a ride by Joe Screen in 2nd place. Disappointment in red in 3rd for Dobruski. Disappointment at the back for Kasper in blue, but through to the semi-finals go Tony Rickardsson and Joe Screen. They shake hands. We have a Brit in the semi-finals. Tony Rickardsson did it ever so well there. How impressive he was, Tony Rickardsson, to take the honours there. The world champion has come back with a vengeance, Peter.
Yeah, he wasn't showing any after effects at all of that crash. He made a great start from the outside, but Joe Screen, he's the man here. You see that he makes a bad start there. He's totally losing. He's going backwards as they enter the 1st turn. He did very well to just chop under the back wheel of Dobruski's bike there as he enters that 1st turn. Dobruski lifts and goes very, very wide. Now Screen's already set sail for that inside position. He's pulled right down to the inside curb, right tucked in close behind Tony Rickardsson, and that's where Joe did all the work basically on that 1st turn, to tuck in behind Rickardsson and stop Dobruski coming round the outside. Dobruski just won't give up though. He tries the inside run when they get down to the pits turn, but Joe's riding so determined. He's not looking back, he's not fazed by anything, and we can see that 1st turn manoeuvre there by Joe. Dobruski played into Joe's hands there by getting all that grip in the wrong place, which allowed Screeny to dive right up the inside, and he's also now going to the semi-finals.
Greets the checkered flag. Joe Screen will be in a semi-final with Jason Crump, Stefan Dano and Thomas Gollub. Ron Sullivan will join the world champion Tony Rickardsson, Hans Nielsen and Jimmy Nilsson. What action we have coming up. The semi-finals will be pretty spectacular here in Wroclaw.
Only the best teams on the day got through, ready to face their new opponents in the semi-finals. And with a showcase final at Lord's, they've all got a lot to fight for. Yorkshire, who haven't played at Lord's since '87, take on Warwickshire, one of the most successful sides of the '90s. And Gloucestershire, looking at an even longer absence from Lord's, take on a young, energetic Sussex side. It's all to play for in the B&H Super Cup semi-finals next Saturday and Sunday, Sky Sports 1.
If you're buying a used car, Ford Direct gets rid of all those niggling worries. All our cars come with a full history and are RAC approved. And after you've bought, there are no mechanical worries because you get a Ford 12-month unlimited mileage warranty. Ford Direct. Used Fords that put a smile on your face.
It's not only kids who have invisible friends. Some mums do too. You can't see or smell detox, but you can trust it to kill germs like Campylobacter that cause food poisoning.
What happened to your plate?
Rosie's got it. Rosie, here. Rosie, stop it.
Detox antibacterial cleanser. Protect your family. Reach for the sword.
Mum, what about pudding?
My invisible friend's making it.
He picked himself off the floor after Heat 17's massive crash. He fought with the doctors to get back out on track, and he wins Heat 20. Tony Rickardson, what a rider from Sweden, and goes through into the semi-final. Number 22 Heat tonight. Live and exclusive coverage then from Wroclaw in Poland, and quite a lot of interest as far as we're concerned here. We got the right result there, Sam. I think we saw Joe Screen go through and Tony Rickardson.
Yeah.
Both riders deserving to go through, I think.
I mean, gate 4 was a gem there. I mean, Tony just blitzed it from the outside, which was it just opened up the door for everybody to tussle for the second places, and Joe did a nice first corner and got in there.
Well, let's take a look at the riders that have been excluded, or the last 8 riders that have been excluded. That makes 16 in total tonight, of course. Michael Carlson goes out. Those are the points that he will have got just this evening. 8 points for him. Rafał Dobrucki, well, maybe a little bit unlucky. He's given us good entertainment, though, as a wild card from Poland. He gets 8 points in the Grand Prix too. Henke Gustafsson, a little surprised to see him go out. He was on quite good form at this GP. Tony Kasper there on 7 points also. Peter Carlson goes out. Brian Carger went out a little earlier. Lee Adams too. And Chris Louis, a British rider that went out a bit earlier on. Through to the finals. The top 4 riders you see here have gone through to Heat 21. That's the next heat on our card. Jason Crump, Thomas Gollub, Stefan Dano and Joe Screen. That's a tough one for Joe. Mind you, I wouldn't want to be in Heat 22 either. That's Ryan Sullivan, Hans Nielsen, Tony Rickardson and Jimmy Nielsen. That's what we're going to see in the 2 semi-finals that are coming up in just a moment. Got to ask you, Gary, if you were going to pick out of Heat 21 or 22, the 2 semi-finals, which one would you go for?
What, the easier one and the harder one? I don't know.
The question is there. It's all yours.
At this stage of a meeting like this, there's no easy or hard races really. I think you've got to look at Gate 4's made some good starts. Tony made a really good one now off Gate 4, and full value to them, man. Anybody who can pick themselves up after a big smash like that and come out and win the race to put himself in the semi-final and keep himself in hope for the World Championship, deserves a lot of credit. Screeny done a superb first corner again, turned back, and he's really racing tonight, and it'd be really nice to see him get in the final, and be even nicer to see him win it and have the Brits winning 2 in a row.
Sam, before we go to Heat 21, we can see him warming up behind me here in the big monitor. Track conditions?
Well, they're definitely bumpy and creating mistakes, so they got to really rely on making the first turn and coming out safe. The track is a kind of track where they squeeze up coming out of turn 2, so I think there's going to be a lot of drama.
Indeed. Well, I was just about to say that sometimes we see great racing when the track conditions are not perfect. There we go then, 32 Grand Prix points to Kasper. Carlson's 28 now. These are total standings after 3 rounds for these men, because they're all out, remember. Lee Adams, Michael Carlson, Chris Louis on 19 points. Karger is on 17. Henke is on whatever he was on. I never read it quick enough, but no doubt we'll get to that at the end of the race. We're more interested in what's going on out there for Joe Screen. We're looking right at him. That is Joe Screen. Puts a lanyard on there. If he falls down, that's supposed to stop his motor. But I have to say, it doesn't stop that quick. Minute and 18 seconds to go for him to make it to the grid. Now then, quick one. We had a British winner last time out. Sam, Can we get one this week?
Well, I think, I don't believe that Joe's making as good a starts as he should be. In gate 4, you got to make a really good start. It could be a favorable one for him, but Crumpy and Gollub, you got those two guys on the inside of you. I just think that he's going to rely on probably doing his big cutback, but Dano made a superb cutback in his heat before this, so it could be Dano and Screen thinking the same thing, cut back underneath Crump and Gollub.
Well, we'll cut back now to our commentary team. Tony.
Yes, well, Heat 21, the first semi-final. This is going to be tough. On the inside in red there, that's Jason Crump. We're expecting a lot from him. In blue, it's Stefan Dano from Sweden. He's got a lot to do as well. There is a man that they'll be shouting for in white, Thomas Gollub. On the outside in yellow and black there, the number 8 machine. Well, it's Jason Crump. So Gollub goes, I beg your pardon, Gollub goes from the inside in red. In blue, it's Stefan Dano. In white, well, there the way they go, and that's great effort there, but moving through. Oh, what a tremendous effort in blue helmet colours there. Well, Stefan Dano picks it up and going round the outside in red. That's Thomas Gollub on the cheers here. Greet the efforts from Gollub. What a rider he is, PC.
Oh, brilliant first turn from Gollub. He's so determined. Of course, Joe Screen, he missed that start, but of course he got caught up in the traffic. But that's Stefan Dano there in the blue, having a big go. Again, all marks to him. If he can get into this final, it'll be a great achievement for Stefan Dano. But Joe's trying, but Crumpy's trying, but they all seem to be losing ground now on Gollub.
Look at Gollub. We said how fast and furious he was. We said how good he was. The surprise packet, Stefan Dano in second place. Back in third is Jason Crump and battling. But Thomas Gollub is the man for whom the cheers are rippling round the stadium here, because he's opening up a gap. He was beaten before in his last race, but now Thomas Gollub is way out front. Stefan Dano is chasing him, but the flags, the cheers, the rattles, the billows, the horns are all ready to greet to final place. A man they already think is world champion, as Thomas Gollub takes that. What a performance. The Polish flags show how good he is. Thomas Gollub there, the first place rider. What a performance by him. We know now what our own men have to cope with. Disappointment for Joe Screen, of course, will have to settle for the Consolation Final there in fourth place, Joe Screen. Jason Crump, of course, in yellow came in third, but Stefan Dano is a surprise finalist. But there's no surprise at the noise in the stadium. The cheers are for that man, Thomas Gollub, and you've only got to guess to look at them that he certainly comes from Poland. The highest paid sportsman in Poland is Thomas Gollub.
And here's the start. That's Gollub in the red. He makes a perfect start again from the inside, totally not fazed whatsoever by the other riders on the outside of him, as Jason Crump out wide also cutting back with Joe Screen. But when they get round here, you can see on the first turn there, Gollub's got straight out to that dirt. You can see all the grips there. Jason Crump's come across. Jason's pushing through there, but Joe Screen's trying round the inside, but now he's lost that. But now, when they get to the bottom bend, the pit turn, Gollub's totally in control of this race. You can see his front forks working there across those bumps. The front wheels just skipping round. Set sail for that first place. What a fantastic ride from Thomas Gollub.
Well, a great effort for Thomas Gollub. He was tight for space there, but there's no doubt about his efforts in front of the Swede Stefan Dano. Dano threatened for a while there, but when Thomas Gollub went away, the Swede was nowhere, and the Polish ace clinched the fist of triumph here on home territory. Could he win his second Grand Prix in Wroclaw? Remember, he won it back in 1995. Well, we move on now to heat number 22. And they're shuffling the colours around here tonight because they are drawing for the places in these semi-finals. And certainly to pick up there in blue, I can tell you, that is Jimmy Nielsen wearing the blue helmet colours. And certainly from previous Grand Prix, they settled for draw places in helmet colours here. And this time, well, it's all totally different, and we'll have to work these out. That looks to me very much like Hans Nielsen going in yellow. And he'll be going from the outside in yellow and black, Hans Nielsen. In blue in gate 2 is Jimmy Nielsen. Ron Sullivan, the Aussie, goes from the inside in red. Tony Rickardson, the world champion, goes in white. They have drawn for places here in the semi-finals by their positions early on. It's a hidden draw now. So they've decided to have a draw for the semi-finals, which has proved quite important here. But it's Ron Sullivan on the inside in red. Jimmy Nielsen in blue, Tony Ricardson in white, and Hans Nielsen for the outside in yellow. Remember how well he did from that gate position early on. Ryan Sullivan is on the inside. We're looking at Hans Nielsen next to us in yellow. In the white helmet colours, there is Tony Ricardson, the world champion. He looks down at the tapes. This promises to be a battle. Away they go. Picked up on the inside in red by Ryan Sullivan. Coming across in white there is Tony Ricardson, the world champion, stretches his lead. But look at Hans Nielsen coming through into second place. A truly brilliant ride by the veteran. But out front it's Ricardson. Nielsen nearly comes off, keeps his balance amazingly. In a now second place to be gained by Ryan Sullivan. But Hans Nielsen will come again. Sullivan is bucking and rearing. The track is getting bumpier and bumpier. Here comes Hans Nielsen. Don't worry about first place. That belongs to Tony Ricardson by a street. But the battle in second place is absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, some of these boys keep losing control out of there over those bumps. Hans Nielsen did it first. He totally lost the front wheel. He was right airborne. And I thought Ryan Sullivan was going to join the grandstand the way he was going. Sullivan's gone down.
Look at Sullivan down. That allows Hans Nielsen through. The Aussie has left his semi-final place. I wonder what will happen from our referee here. But Tony Ricardson is going to win this. There's no doubt about that. The world champion is going to take the honours here. But there goes the exclusion sign. Will it have to be rerun? Will the results stand? We'll have to wait and see, Peter Collins. When will the incident stop happening?
Yeah, Ryan Sullivan just seemed to lose it there all of a sudden, whether his footrest broke or something, but he crossed that bad bump going. I think he lost the back wheel or the foot off the footrest over that bad bump going into that pits turn, and he seemed to have landed quite awkwardly there. He didn't jump up straight away to his feet, although I hope he is going to be all right. But again, it's down to track conditions.
It looks as if Ron Sullivan has been excluded, certainly as the cause of the stoppage. So he will be only taking part in the consolation final, subject to his fitness. Sad for the Aussie there, but certainly he's absolutely furious. We can see Hans Nielsen there riding past him, and in the blue helmet colours at the rear there was Jimmy Nielsen. But we'll have to await the referee's decision as to whether he's awarded it on that lap or whether there will be a rerun. And well, if there's a rerun, certainly there'll be some controversy, certainly be some questions asked. Peter, what about that situation?
I think the referee's going to declare the race because Tony Ricardson had started his last lap, and you know, basically he can declare that on the last lap, and I'm sure that's what he's going to do.
Well, we'll wait to see what Tony Steele says, our referee. Result stands, which means that Tony Ricardson and Hans Nielsen go through to the final. And that certainly, I think anybody who saw what was happening there will believe that was right. It means a place for Ron Sullivan in the consolation final, because he will, of course, finish in the top 8. We know that Hans Nielsen is now through to the final. We know that Jimmy Nielsen will have to take part in the consolation final. So that's how it's all worked out. The referee, Tony Steele, awarding the places on the last lap, with Ron Sullivan taking a tumble into the barrier. So there we are. It's starting to work out. We know who 2 of the finalists will be as Ron Sullivan takes a drink. The world champions, many championships between them, Tony Ricardson from Sweden and Hans Nielsen from Denmark, will be in that final. The next event, of course, will be the semi-final, the consolation final. There'll be a few minutes before that takes place, and we'll be having a battle to sort out exactly who's in that. Of course, we know that Tony Ricardson and Jimmy and Hans Nielsen through to the final, and we await to see the details of who makes this consolation final. Peter, what a meeting.
What a meeting. There's all sorts going on here. There's a lot of dirt on this track, and it's causing all kinds of problems for the boys.
Well, the lads back in the studio, Sam Ermolenko and Gary Havelock, are experienced in this stadium, experienced at this level. This is quite a meeting, isn't it, lads?
Well, I can tell you, you mentioned earlier that they were going to stand, but it looks like they're going to rerun that race.
So Tony Millard, perhaps a bit previous there at the moment, as we keep an eye on what's going on here at trackside. It looks pretty much as if this is going to go on. So the rules being made up a little bit as we go along possibly here, because certainly we were a little bit confused at the fact that they drew for places for the semi-finals for a moment. Sam, you went through a big deal as far as who would be doing what in the first turn. You were a little bit embarrassed about that.
Yeah, it was, but really the FIM rules have always been a race isn't over until they cross the checkered flag, so this is the correct way.
And you were at Little Supplies there, Gary, as well. But we were told from trackside, I mean, I have to say that we were told here in the studio from trackside that that race had been run after the laps it had covered. So probably...
Yeah, you know, in the league in England, it's at the referee's discretion that, you know, if it's so many seconds left, laps left, they can award it. But in FIM, you have to finish your race.
Well, we can go back now. Tony, you're as surprised as us, I think.
Absolutely surprised. I think Tony Steele was operating British League regulations. He was corrected here in the stadium by the powers that be, and it means that Jimmy Nielsen will have another chance. Jimmy Nielsen goes in blue, Tony Ricardson in white, Hans Nielsen in yellow and black. Well, what a day we're having here, because anything can happen, it seems, in Speedway, and we just have to wait and see. What a shame it would be for the world champion if he didn't get through after this, but Jimmy Nielsen will be looking for a second go. Ricardson now tries to move through. The one that'll be disappointed if it stays like this. Hans Nielsen at the back. In front place there in blue is Jimmy Nielsen. Reversal of the order before. Hans Nielsen's at the back. Tony Ricardson in second place. Still anybody's race at the end of lap 1. Peter, will it be fair?
Yeah, well, Jimmy Nielsen now, of course, he wasn't in the first 2 in that first race, so he wouldn't have made the final, but now he's actually leading it. Of course, Tony Rickardson's having a big go around the outside. Hans Nielsen seems to be dropping back as well, so it's not over yet, Tony.
A lot to race for at the halfway stage. Jimmy Nielsen still out front. Tony Ricardson, the world champion, in contention and now moving through, picking up first place. Looks as if there's a mechanical problem for Jimmy Nielsen, who seems to be slowing up. I wonder if that'll allow Hans Nielsen to catch him at the back, but certainly not. I wonder if that was a bit of Swedish team riding for a place in the final.
I think that Jimmy's just riding very cautiously because of the bumps on this track. We saw what happened to Ryan Sullivan, but again, Tony Ricardson, he's just very, very quick and showing no effects at all of that crash, and it was certainly a right decision to allow him to ride.
Well, there we saw Tony Ricardson, the world champion, is through to the final. Jimmy Nielsen is currently in second place in the Grand Prix. He's through to the final. It means the top 2 in the Grand Prix standings and the rider fourth coming into tonight are all through to the final. Disappointment for Hans Nielsen, but Thomas Gollub is there. The surprise packet, Stefan Dano, joins them, but that heat victory for Tony Ricardson in the semi-final ahead of Jimmy Nielsen provides acute disappointment for Hans Nielsen, who'll have to be satisfied with a place in the Consolation Final. And look at it for the start, PC.
Well, if we watch this start, that's Tony Ricardson in the white helmet. Now, Tony misses the start this time. Hans Nielsen pulls across the front of him, squashes him between Jimmy Nielsen and Hans. Now, Tony Ricardson has chopped back up the inside and comes straight through on the inside of Hans Nielsen. Now, when they're coming onto the back straight, Hans is out very, very wide, but just watch here now. Tony Ricardson in the white totally shuts the door there on Hans Nielsen, stops him coming totally. Now, I think that's probably a bit to do with that race with the accident when Hans brought all those down, especially when Tony came off worse from that, and he wanted to show him that you're not going to get away with things like that on me, Hans.
Well, we certainly see, I suppose you could say, if in the end justice was done with Hans Nielsen not making the final. Tony Ricardson through there, if you look back to that earlier incident. But Tony Ricardson is through to the final. Thomas Gollub's through to the final. Jimmy Nielsen's through to the final. And the surprise packet from Sweden, which means 3 Swedes in the final, is Stefan Dano, who finished second in his semi to Thomas Gollub. The Consolation Final follows next. That will be for minor placings in this Grand Prix. All 8 riders, and of course, guaranteed a place in the main event in the British Grand Prix at Coventry. But this man, Tony Ricardson, on your screens at the moment, is looking set for a battle royal with Thomas Gollub, perhaps the pretender to his throne in the final Heat 24. Before that, consolation places 5 to 8 will be raced for in Heat 23, which is the Consolation Final. The lads in the studio have been watching it very carefully from afar. I just wonder who they'll forecast will be the winner. Keith, what do the lads think?
I think the jury's still out there. Thank you very much, Tony. At the moment, we've got 3 Swedes chasing a pole. That's about as far as we've got in here. You heard what Tony had to say. What do you think, Sam?
Well, I got to favor Gollub, if you know what I mean. I think it comes down to now what they're going to do at the start. You know, who's going to choose what. But I mean, Gollub seems really superior at the moment, and you know, Tony's done a really good job to come back from his little praying there.
From a little praying there. I think that's an opportune moment for us to take another look at that. If you've only just joined us for the Speedway final, take a look at this. The man who just won the last semi-final. This is what happened to him to turn 1 in 17. Down he went. Watch for his head. Smack. Take that. Tony Ricardson then with a major headache, but still goes through to the final. The other boys saw that Rickardson looks a bit sorry for himself, and straight away, that's Speedway comradeship for you there. Another look at it. Gary, horrendous, really.
Yeah, it was a nasty bang. You know, they're usually the worst ones where you get the domino effect. The guy on the inside takes the next guy, who takes the next guy, who takes the next guy. And you see there, Tony, just front wheel went wallop back and head first into that fence, which doesn't look like it gives very much.
What, the back of his head or the fence?
The fence. It looks like a solid wooden fence.
We take another look at it again now, and in white is Tony Rickardson, the world champion. And you saw there, he was holding his head immediately. Well, it's a good sign that he wasn't knocked unconscious. Sam was the first to pick that up with the fact that he was still with us. If he could lift his hands to his head, then clearly he was okay. But Hans was, of course, the man that caused that, Sam, and he now finds himself with a consolation ride. Probably consolation for that, I would suggest.
Well, I mean, it's hard racing out there. The guys are all rooting, you know, just going for they got to make the start, move around. We've seen earlier there was a couple of cases where Henke Gustafsson was on the outside of all of those incidents up the inside when they're moving them up. But that time there was 4 guys going for the same patch of ground out there, and Hans had the opportunity to move them all out, and there was not enough room for them.
Okay, looking forward to the way this race meeting is shaping up at the moment. Let's stick with the final, not the consolation race. We've got the 2 main men in the World Championship, just 4 points apart. This is going to be fairly electrifying, isn't it? In fact, why did I use the word fairly?
Yeah, I think the first corner will certainly, again, will be vital. I mean, there's the type of riders, they ain't going to give an inch. They're all going to be wanting, depending on which gate positions they get, they're going to either be trying to take people out or trying to cut back. Jimmy there made a really good start in the semi-final, but he seemed to be riding very cautiously. I think the way the track is with the ruts and the bumps probably doesn't suit his style. But funny enough, Tony, since that crash, and he had a last in the rerun, but he seems to have jumped on another bike and it seems to be absolutely flying. So you know, I wouldn't count against him winning it.
Okay, well, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back and we'll try and work out exactly who's got first choice as far as the grid's concerned. Rots left, consolation races left, and the main final.
This Sunday on Sky Premier.
Shift to the turbo.
Turbo, a Power Rangers movie.
Better rush.
Swing into action.
King of Jungle only here to help.
The Sunday family movie, George of the Jungle.
What is it with Star Wars? It's more than a film.
Feel the Force and explore the legendary Star Wars. All creatures great and small.
What's that sound?
The Lost World, Jurassic Park.
Mommy's very angry.
This Sunday on Sky Premier.
You see many people who is making like this and all time making like this. It's not fitting on their face. So we create a custom light. You need to have 6 measurements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like wearing nothing. I don't know why, but it's amazing. Nobody else does it. Only Vision Express.
Welcome back to the Wroclaw Olympic Stadium. This is the Consolation Final. There you saw Joe Screen on the outside. On the inside in red, Ron Sullivan. Remember, we're racing for places 5 to 8 in the Grand Prix. Jason Crump from Australia goes from gate 2. Hans Nielsen, the shock exodus for him at the semi-final stage, goes from gate 3. The Grand Prix points to an issue, so is Cash on the inside in red. Picking it up, Ron Sullivan at the apex of the bend. Coming through in yellow, that's Joe Screen. Joe Screen will go round the outside. Back in third place in blue is Jason Crump. Hans Nielsen tailed off at the rear. They're battling for places, but look at that effort from Joe Screen as he picks it up round the outside.
Well, this is some consolation for Joe to be leading the consolation final. What a first turn he made. Absolutely brilliant from Joe, and everything seems to be working for him tonight. The way he's just gone by Ryan Sullivan there with very small gap. There in the blue is Jason Crump really getting stuck in, but Ryan Sullivan's in second. But there in the front is Joe Screen riding. He's not looking behind. totally focused, going as quick as he can, and that's a great ride from Joe, and he's actually pulling away like mad from the opposition.
If he holds it, a valuable 15 Grand Prix points will come the way of Joe Screen, because he's looking very, very good indeed. This may be the consolation final, but for him it provides a chance of glory. Ron Sullivan back in second place, but Joe Screen is stretching that lead. He's going further and further in front. He has time to look back. He clenches his fist with the checkered flag greeting him. Joe Screen wins that in yellow. In second place is Ron Sullivan in red. But Joe Screen, 15 Grand Prix points to his name to add to the 17 he had going into tonight's meeting. Jason Crump in the blue helmet colours back in third place. Hans Nielsen disappointment for him at the back. But Joe Screen piles up the Grand Prix points. Ron Sullivan, who finished 7th overall last year, gets 6th place on the night. But from the tapes, well, it sorted itself out for first Ben, PC.
Yeah, this is the first time really all night that Joe's made a start here. He's just pulled out from the 4 position. We know the 4's been working well, and there he is, determined. He pulls right across the front of Jason Crump. That's Ryan Sullivan that's leading round the inside, but he's turning too sharply there because Joe's got the run round the outside. Look at that now, his wheels are in line as the others are actually going sideways, but he rode a very, very brave back straight here. It looks as though that gap's going to close. He just did enough to squeeze in between that gap between Ryan Sullivan and the fence, but it made him cross that bad bump. He took that bad bump very, very well, and then straight round the outside of Ryan Sullivan, straight into fresh air, and 5th place overall in the Polish Grand Prix tonight.
Takes him progressively on to 32 Grand Prix points, which takes him above Greg Hancock. And now, well, the big issue is the final. The big boys are out, but the last Brit has gone, and Joe Screen in 5th place tonight has taken his Grand Prix total to 32 points, and he's in contention. The lads in the studio, I'm sure, will have plenty of comments to make about the efforts of Sam Ermolenko's teammate.
Indeed. Joe Screen then, Sam, we chuck it straight to you. He'll be happy enough with 5th place, won't he, tonight?
Absolutely. I mean, he's been on a bit of a downer. He's just changed tuners, and he's got a new tuner, which is Glenn Taylor helping him a bit. And he's just, I mean, he must be feeling top of the world right now. He's got a chance to win races again. I mean, in the league, riding at Hull, he's had a couple of maximums and had some really crucial Heat 15 races with me to win the matches for our club, and he's really on a high at the moment.
How tough would you say tonight's Grand Prix has been? Because it's looked pretty hard to me, Gary.
I'd say it was very tough, but maybe not as tough as some of them, you know, because with you know, some of the top riders going out in the early sort of rounds, you know, maybe the top guys like Gollub and that have, you know, I think he's probably only had 3 rides already and he's in the final. So he's probably found it not too bad, but you know, these GPs, they are tough. It's the hardest speedway there is anyway, you know, and nobody gives an inch and everybody's really up
Well,
for
actually,
it.
you say about that with Grand Prix. I think we get the same in the Elite League, and that's our next Speedway action. Just to remind you of what's coming up while we wait for the finalists in today's Polish Grand Prix to come to the line. Oxford v Bellevue, that's on Wednesday, and we're from 7:30 p.m. with our build-up to the race. That's on Sky Sports 2, and of course it is exclusively live. That's the Elite League, our next Speedway meeting. That'll be on Wednesday. But tomorrow, well, I'm back with round 8, the 125, 250 and 500s, all the best bits. We've got the British Motorcycle Grand Prix from Donington Park, the Turn of the Road races to show us some style. That's on Sky Sports 1. 11 p.m, don't miss that one, it's going to be a good one. Sam, tonight we've moved on now, we've done the consolation race. What about this final? We're told that Gollub has first choice, Rickardson has second choice. Where would you be going? You're pretty good at this, actually.
Well, if I know Gollub's style, he'll chance it from the outside, but he's made it from all the gates that he's been in so far. You know, maybe he'll think that the inside's the best place to be, but who's to say? I mean, I really wouldn't want to say.
Well, we can see now over my shoulder, these are live shots from Wroclaw, and these are the 4 boys that have got to make a bit of a choice. I am told from trackside that Gollub has first choice, Rickardson second choice, Stefan Dano, the surprise package in this final, I've got to say. I heard Tony Millard say it earlier, we've been talking about it here while Tony was commentating, and Jimmy Nielsen has last choice, in other words, no choice. There is the man that 40,000 fans in Poland expect to A, make the right choice and B, win from it. Thomas Gollub, well, if he was feeling any pressure earlier on this evening, it is now coming to an absolute crescendo, and that's why. 40,000 fans behind the fence. Actually, I've got to say, I've never been to Poland. My race commentator partner, Julian Ryder, is married to a Pole. Good evening, Wendy, if you're watching. I'm sure you will be, seeing that the Polishman looks like he might win this one tonight. Maybe I'll get an invite to one of our family gatherings at trackside at some stage. Gary, what would be your choice? I asked Sam.
I think the way the track's been and the way the gates are going, I think you'd probably have to go for 4, because it's a type of track, it's such a long run to the first corner. If you can make half a decent start on 4, you can just clamp everybody down on the line and virtually race over. But again, if you go off 4 and you don't make a good start, you know, you're stuck out there and you're in a difficult position. But knowing Gollub and his liking for gate 4, I'm sure he might well pick 4.
Well, you can see there, 39% have come off of gate 4. That's 39% of the winners today have come off of gate 4. So that bears out exactly what you're saying. 30% off gate 1, and who wants gate 2 effectively there?
I feel sure Gollub will take 4.
Well, he's right there hovering over it. How much difference will the grading that have done? There it goes, up in the air. So he's coming off the outside then. Thomas Gollub, the leader in the World Series, is coming off of gate 4 in yellow. Rickardson next up. How much difference on that grading, Sam?
Well, the grading's definitely going to make a difference on whether there's a cushion on the outside through the first corner. But, I mean, Tony made a really good start off gate 3 to win one of his heats. And I think he's feeling pretty confident. I think he'd rather be just on the inside of Gollub, as you can see there.
Yeah, you're right again, Sam. I've got to give you that one. So, white helmet colour for Rickardson. That leaves Dano and Nielsen. Well, you just got to go up the inside, haven't you?
Well, 1 or 2, obviously.
Yeah, but gate 1, obviously, with the percentage, you know, he's probably feeling like he's got. Like I say, if you make a good one off 1, you can dictate what's going on the outside. He just his hands proved earlier. So if he does take gate 1, I think he would probably, Dano would be more dangerous off gate 1 than gate 2, because Jimmy probably doesn't feel as comfortable as the track, as Gary mentioned earlier.
Stefan Dano, though, looks to me like a man hovering over the red helmet colour at the moment. And it is red then for Stefan Dano. So we are on for a final here. No choice left for Jimmy Nielsen. He'll go off a blue. And we're about ready to go off now with the 2 boys in the box. Are you all warmed up for this, gentlemen? This is going to be something a bit good, I think, with a track like it is.
Warmed up is hardly the word. Who fancies Stefan Dano, perhaps, for a wildcard victory? I don't think Peter Collins alongside me, anybody in the stadium, is now betting against Thomas Gollub, though, surely.
He's dynamite. Who's going to stop him? I know I mentioned earlier about Tony Rickardson riding here last week and scoring a 15-point maximum, so he's pretty clued up on this track. So if anyone's going to stop Thomas, I think it will be Tony Rickardson.
It looks to me as if Gollub has got to make it from the gate, otherwise he's shut out against the barrier. Can he come back through the inside if he were to be stuck at the gate?
Well, you see, Tony Rickardson's, you know, a very good, hard rider, and he's the world champion. If Tony makes a decent start and Thomas Gollub is basically with him on the outside, I know Tony's going to run Thomas very, very wide and hang him out to dry on the fence. Not knock him off, but he's just going to run him out into no man's land off the racing line.
Well, I know that Tony Rickardson wants to win it. We look at the Grand Prix standings coming into it before tonight. Thomas Gollub had 40 points. Remember, there are 25 at issue to the winner. The 4th place man gets 16. Jimmy Nielsen, who was just 4 points behind Gollub going into this, were he to win, would take the lead in the Grand Prix tonight. Tony Rickardson was on 25 going into this. I suppose a heat victory in this one with 25 points would be a tremendous boost to his chance of retaining his title. Stefan Dano, though, way down the list in 9th place on 22 points, but doing better than we expected.
Well, Stefan's got some years on the rest of the riders. He's the youngest one in this final, and so he's going to be quite brave out there. He's got nothing to lose. But I think Jimmy Nielsen, he's at the other end of the scale. I think Jimmy's struggling tonight by watching him. I think he's struggling here with the track. I don't think he likes it at all. He can make really quick starts, and that's why he's in there. But as far as going quick over those bumps is concerned, I don't think Jimmy's going to like that.
Well, we're going to be underway very, very shortly. As soon as all the riders have got pushed away and under the tapes will come down. They'll be up for their gate positions. I know the mechanics are nervous. Each seems to have a couple of mechanics out there on the track. But there's going to be a real party in Poland tonight if this man, Thomas Gollub, wins this. And I know what partying can be like here in Wroclaw because, well, I think the Poles enjoy winning, don't they?
Yes, they do. This crowd will erupt if Thomas Gollub wins it. If Thomas loses, you're going to hear some a terrible whistling noise whistling through the stadium because they don't want their man to lose, and the whistling is a sign of not enjoying the proceedings.
Well, there'll be a few people back in Ipswich who'll be looking for success from this man. Remember, we saw him get a 15-point maximum, and Ollie Olsen, the race director, I'm sure that he wants to get home from Poland alive. I think he might have something to say if Gollub doesn't win it. Well, who knows? Ollie Olsen doesn't actually have any Danes in this one because it's just the Pole and 3 Swedes, and will they be ganging up?
Well, you know, they'll be riding for the blue and yellow Swedish flag, I'm sure, but Thomas is you know, he can always pull something out of the bag at the end, and, you know, Thomas is liable to do something absolutely drastic, as we've seen so many times before.
Well, at Ipswich a couple of weeks, 10 days ago, he was an absolute flyer. 15-point maximum, televised maximum in Britain. And, well, here in Wroclaw, there'll be nearly 40,000 people wanting him to win. As we look down on the contestants in this final. On the inside in red, Stefan Dano. Next to him in blue is Jimmy Nilsson. White, Tony Rickardson, all from Sweden. But that man on the outside in yellow and black, Thomas Gollub from Poland, the current Grand Prix leader. Remember, he won the Grand Prix here in Wroclaw back in 1995. The first Grand Prix ever was won by Thomas Gollub. He's now 28 years old, but he's a super rider. We'll now see just how good. Can he win it again? Up go the tapes. Gollub is taken wide, but he's going through. But look out front at Jimmy Nilsson. If Nilsson holds it here, Nilsson will be the Grand Prix leader at the end of the night. Jimmy Nilsson's in front. Gollub is going. The cheers are mounting. Gollub is mounting his challenge. But somehow Jimmy Nilsson has picked up the right route. Jimmy Nilsson is under threat, but Jimmy Nilsson, with nearly half the race gone, is still out front. Can Thomas Gollub do it? The challenge will be tough on Jimmy Nilsson.
That's right. Can Jimmy just keep that speed up for long enough? Like I say, I don't think he's enjoying that very much, but if he can put this one good ride together, then he can win it. Thomas is trying everything he can round the outside.
He did there and possibly looked up a little, but now he's got to try it again. But the Poles are cheering. You can hear the noise now as Gollub tries to pick it up. Jimmy Nilsson goes into the last lap now, still in front. Thomas Gollub is mounting that challenge. Look at him on the outside. Can he pick up the grip? It's all going to be on the final bend. Jimmy Nilsson is on. Gollub goes through. Nilsson comes back. Gollub goes too wide. Gollub will come again. Oh, on the line by half a wheel. It's Thomas Gollub. Listen to the fans from Poland. They're jumping in the air. Jimmy Nilsson beaten by half a wheel. The lead changed hands twice on the final bend, and Thomas Gollub in the end the winner. The Poles have gone mad. Could he be world champion elect? Thomas Gollub moves on to 65 Grand Prix points, and what a finish, what a finale, what a race, doing credit to the final. The checkered flag means a lot to 35,000 people in this stadium, and an awful lot of money, an awful lot of dollars to Poland's highest paid sportsman, and the cheers just tell you there as he bows to the fans how popular he is. The flags are waving, and it's party time in Wroclaw tonight. It's party time from Gdansk in the north to Katowice in the south, and Thomas Gollub will be celebrating with the best of them. Jimmy Nilsson in second place, Stefan Dano in third, Tony Rickardson in fourth. Rickardson and Nilsson are still in contention for that world title, but Thomas Gollub has well and truly stolen a march in front of his own crowd. And I just wonder, PC, was it one of the best finishes to a race you've ever seen?
Oh, absolutely marvellous. We had to wait until the last 2 metres of the track before we saw the result there. And the way Thomas just gradually reeled him in, the way he took him on that pit turn was unbelievable, because he came through there so fast. He could have easily gone straight over the fence and into the crowd, the speed he was going, but he held it, he kept it. Jimmy came back at him, then he got the wheels straight in line and straight back over the finish to steal it by about half a metre. And that, if he's going to win the World Championship this year, Thomas has got to do things like that, and he's halfway there right now after 3 rounds, and he's in the driving seat.
Thomas Gollub then, a tremendous winner, the most popular man in Poland, and could he be the world champion elect on tonight's form with a fantastic finish? He leads the Grand Prix, others are in contention, but they perhaps are only pretenders. What a night for Speedway.
9 points then, the lead that Tomasz Gollub has. You can see why he's the highest paid sportsman in Poland, because they all love him in Poland. My thanks to studio guests Sam Ermolenko and Gary Havelock for joining us here. I've never seen him finish to a Speedway meeting like that in my life. Commitment was all Tomasz Gollub's. He took it, he deserved it. He is the Grand Prix champion of Poland.